The body near the Geno Hall's door did not do anything. It looked at Han Sen, who was covered in blue blood, and quietly said, "I hope you will not regret this." After saying that, the shadow turned around and left. It disappeared inside the bright lights of the hall. The Geno Hall's door was closed. All the creatures thought there would be a fight that would shock the sky, but who would have known it was to end like that? After the Geno Hall door closed, the palaces and the god temples closed down as well. Silence returned to permeate the atmosphere of the god palaces. Oh my God! Even all of the god spirits got humiliated and did not do anything to him. Who is that man? Which race does he belong to? He cannot be the boss of the very high, right? The very high are strong, but they cannot be strong enough for so many god spirits to be afraid of him. What does he want to do to Godfather Han? Every race had been talking about these events. They were guessing the identities of the man and woman and what it was they sought to do. The expression on Sky Palace's first seat's face changed. Although the god palaces are there, the god spirits were ended by the rules of the god palaces. They guarded their god temples, unable to exit their god temples to do battle. That guy spoke with disdain. That person inside the Geno Hall was actually willing to put up with it. Does that mean the man really is sacred leader? Sky Palace leader looked at the man for a long time before saying, "He is not sacred leader. Although his blood looks like the blood of the legendary sacred leader, you and I both know sacred leader cannot still be alive. He is not sacred leader. It does not matter if he is or not. This person can make the guy inside the Geno Hall scared. I am afraid he is in big trouble. Why is he soaking Han Sen in his blood? What's that for?" Sky Palace's first seat's expression looked scared. Sky Palace leader quietly moaned and said, "You said Han Sen came from the sanctuaries. If that is true, he might not possess pure crystallizer blood. I am afraid this entire thing is not so simple." While they were both talking, the man pulled his hand back. The wound on his hand was already healed. Han Sen's body was dyed blue by the blue blood. It was like a blue fairy glowing with a blue light. The blood was being absorbed like a sponge. It went into his skin. Han Sen's body returned to normal. He had black hair and white skin. In his veins, fresh red blood was soaked by the blue blood. It became the blue blood. The man, who stood beneath the umbrella, took a few steps back. He looked as if he was a sculptor examining the breadth of his creation. He watched Han Sen with keen interest. Han Sen felt like the blood in his body was boiling. Even the time cycle did not stop the blue blood power roaring in his body. His red blood was crystallized. After being touched by the blue blood, it started to melt. It carried a weird and strange power. It went into Han Sen's organs and muscles. His veins were like many blue, small snakes. They were showing across his skin. Roar! Han Sen looked at the sky and made some painful moaning noises. In that moaning noise, his entire body's blue flame was like an exploding volcanic eruption. Han Sen's entire body was wrapped up in it. At this moment, the time loop composed by Moment God did not come to affect him. He had been set free from the trap. Of course, Han Sen is not a pure crystallizer, Sacred Leader said with a sigh. His body has Sacred Leader's blood. He cannot combine with the blue blood power. Who are you people? Han Sen was set free. He looked at the man beneath the umbrella. Now, he felt like his body was full of weird power. Although Han Sen thought this man was human king, he could not be entirely sure. It does not matter who I am. You just need to know that your power was gifted to you by me. That will be enough. After speaking, the man turned around and went to the Moment God temple. The red-clothed woman was still holding the umbrella from behind. The two of them quickly left the Moment God temple and disappeared into space. Han Sen had no time to find out who that man was. Sorting out the trouble there was the most important task at hand. He could not allow Bauer to be trapped there. Han Sen's heart jumped. He sprinted toward Moment God and used his light scissors to approach her. One white and one dragon, two dragons, were headed for Moment God's neck. Kacha-cha! The power of the light scissors broke a few strands of Moment God's hair. She had a red mark on her neck. In the next time cycle, Moment God returned to normal. Although the light scissors can sever time powers, the damage it deals is not strong. Because I have blue blood, I escaped the binding of the time loop. They are still in the time loop. It is pointless for me to kill Moment God since the time loop will remain and she will resurrect. Han Sen frowned. He felt his body's blue blood power, but he could not use that power. He gave up the idea of killing Moment God. He flashed away and went as Sun Moon God Ape. He tried to pull him away from Moment God Temple. Han Sen did not dare try and use Bower and Golden Growler as a test for this method, so he had to try it on Sun Moon God Ape. Han Sen quickly discovered that he could not pull him away from the time loop. No matter where he went, he reappeared inside the time cycle. His body could not leave the Moment God Temple area. What to do? Han Sen kept thinking of ideas. Right now, he could use his blue blood powers. He could ignore Moment's End power, so he could get out of there. But Bower and Golden Growler were trapped there. Han Sen could not let that slide. In that situation, even if Han Sen used his Super God Spirit Body, that would only make him not be affected by the time loop. He could not save Bower. Blue blood power is not affected by the time loop. If I can control this power, I do not know if I can use it to kill Moment God. Han Sen thought about the man who put the blue blood in him. Wherever the blood touched, it would not be affected by the time loop. Han Sen tried to control the blue blood power, but it did not fare well. He could not control the power. Han Sen hesitated. He cast Blood Pulse Sutra. Han Sen knew there was a Geno art that could control blue blood power, but he was worried. Thus, he did not use Blood Pulse Sutra. Now, he could not care for much. Blood Pulse Sutra opened. The blue blood power in his body was running like mad with the Blood Pulse Sutra. The speed of the blood's flow was way over Blood Pulse Sutra's speed. It was not Blood Pulse Sutra controlling the blood power to run. The blood power was pulling the Blood Pulse Sutra to run like mad. In a palace, Human King squinted. He looked at Han Sen's black eyes turn blue and said to himself, "It is starting." Roar. Han Sen's arms subconsciously opened. He looked into the sky and roared. His eyes had turned blue. They flickered with a scary light. Han Sen's brain was still very clear, but his body was very hungry. It was like he was a junkie. His head knew this should not continue, but the reactions of his body made him unable to control himself. Blue light flickered.
Han Sen's body broke space.
Suddenly, he went in front of Moment God. He grabbed her neck and lifted her. Moment God was in the time loop, so she could not block Han Sen's attack. She could only watch. Han Sen felt like there was a beast inside him that wanted to kill very badly. He grabbed Moment God by the neck. He unleashed a scary power as he squeezed. Half of that power was from the blue blood power. A small part was from Han Sen's own body power. Aside from that, any other Geno art power lost its usage. Aside from Blood Pulse Sutra, other Geno arts were not usable. With the blue blood power running, Blood Pulse Sutra's running exhibited weird changes. Han Sen was no stranger to these changes. Before, Human King had given him the other part of the Blood Pulse Sutra, and those changes came from the other part. Catcha. Moment God's neck was twisted by Han's senator. Her neck had a blue mark. Even the time loop could not make the injured, blue part recover. The hit did not kill Moment God. Han Sen's hand was waving like a knife. He kept slashing Moment God, who was unable to fight back. He slashed many wounds onto her god body. Her wounds, flesh, and bones turned blue. After having the blue blood power, Han Sen used empty hands and fists to leave wounds that revealed the bones beneath the skin of Moment God's god body. Before that, Han Sen had used the light scissors and was unable to harm her flesh. The whole universe was silent. They looked at Han Sen tearing Moment God apart. Before long, he ended up smashing her brain. Just as Moment God's brain broke, the clock with Moment's End shattered. It turned into a light shadow that shattered and disappeared. Annihilation Class God Spirit hunted. Moment God. God's Spirit received. In the next second, Han Sen saw Moment God's corpse turn into dust in the sky. The dust gathered itself and raced to a pin that was like a needle. Han Sen picked up the pin. He heard another announcement in his head. Annihilation Class God Personality Armament received. Moment Needle. Moment's End was gone. The temple's space returned to normal. Bower, by King, and the others were freed from the time loop. Han Sen stared at Dollar, who was Bower. His brain knew that, but his body felt as if he suddenly wanted to kill Bower. What is going on? Han Sen was scared, but he could not control his body. His hands uncontrollably raised. His 5 fingers shook with insanity. He was thrusting forward to clutch Bauer's head. He did not have time to think. Han Sen tried his hardest. He controlled his body to rush outside the god temple. He was afraid that within the next second, he would lose all control of himself and end up killing Bauer. He forced his body to run out of the moment god temple. In doing that, Han Sen's body continued to shake. He felt as if he wanted to turn around, go back, and kill Bauer. It was not easy to rush out of the moment god temple. Han Sen wanted to use galaxy teleportation, but he noticed he was no longer able to use God's Wander. The blue blood power stopped all other powers in his body. Galaxy teleportation did not work, but his body was still forced to teleport elsewhere. That came from the blue blood power. Pang! Han Sen did not know where he had teleported to. He saw lots of asteroids around him. His body hit a planet very hard. It was like a giant asteroid smashing into it. The planet now had a big, circular hole in it. The rocky ground was like a sea wave spreading for 1,000 miles. Han Sen kneeled at the center of the circular hole. His body was shaking. Although he was away from Bauer, he still had that desire. He had the desire to kill. Blue blood. Blue blood power has a problem. Han Sen's body had broken into a cold sweat. That was the result of him forcing his body to resist. His mind was not able to combine with his body. It made Han Sen feel terrible. A voice that was not too far from Han Sen began to speak. Do not try to control it. That is your true power. That is who you are. Let the blue blood fill up every inch of your body. Let it activate your body. Let yourself enable his true power. Han Sen was having trouble raising his head to look. He saw the woman in red clothes was there. She was holding her umbrella. She was not far from him. Beneath the umbrella, a man was looking at him from above. Han Sen gnashed his teeth and asked, "What did you do to me?" Even his voice was shaking. No, no, no. I did not do anything to you, the man said with a smile. What you should be asking is, what do you want to do now? You still have not recognized what you are capable of. You still don't know what you truly want. I know who I am, and I know what I want. I know that I don't want blue blood, too. Han Sen's body was shaking as if he was insane. Sweat was dripping from his face. The blue blood power was too strong. Merely controlling his own body was absurdly difficult. Do you really know who you are? The man came out from the red umbrella. He squatted next to Han Senator. He reached out his hand and tilted Han Sen's jaw. He looked at him as if he was smiling, but he wasn't smiling. Human King. It is you? Han Sen finally saw his face. It was a handsome face, and it had some unique presence normal people did not have. It was like some king that was far superior to anyone else. The man's finger tilted Han Sen's jaw. He coldly laughed and said, "My child, you do not know who you are. You are different from who you think you are. I do not know what you are talking about. Get your blue blood out of me." Han Sen wanted to turn his face to escape from Human King's hand, but his blue blood power body did not listen. "My child, you are my heir. Your body is flowing with my blood, and now you have my blood. From now on, you are a pure human." Human King stroked Han Sen's cheeks. He smiled and said, "It will not be long before you understand. That is the pride and superiority of being a human. You will enjoy it all. I do not need to be a real human. I am me. I am Han Senior." Han Sen gnashed his teeth as he spoke. "That is not going to cut it, my child. Enjoy living like a real human. You will soon thank me, and you will return to me." Human King pulled out his finger. He wiped away the sweat on Han Sen's cheek. He then got up and left. Han Sen was holding his own body. He tried to raise his head. He saw the red-clothed woman hold the umbrella while walking away with Human King. Suddenly, they were gone. Blue blood power was almost flowing throughout his body. It made Han Sen feel very weird. Blue blood power was incredibly strong, but it also gave Han Sen the feeling of abandonment. All of the rules and power he had amassed were being shoved out of his body. It was like everything he had come to know was abandoning him. Damn it! Han Sen really disliked this feeling that he could not control. He was fighting against the blue blood power, but his own power was not as strong as the blue blood power. It was getting corroded by the sheer force of the blue blood. His body was losing control. It was not like it was not controllable. He just needed to follow the blue blood's desire, then he could control his body. But Han Sen did not want what the blue blood desired. Jade skin. It could not be used. Dongxian Sutra. He could not run. Han Sen cast a few Geno arts one after the other. He was still unable to feel the existence of those powers. Even the story of genes did not react. He wanted to become a xenogeneic, but he still had no response from his body. Wanner is still inside Destiny's tower. My body has lost control, so I cannot get Wanner out. I cannot use Super God Spirit mode for long, but there is no other way now. I must try it. Han Sen was preparing to use his Super God Spirit mode when he suddenly felt his body become hard. Han Sen felt a hot power cross his entire back. It was so painful that it made him scream. Now, he could not use his Dongxian Sutra. He had no idea what had happened to his back. After having this heat on his back, the blue blood power stopped corroding his body, especially his back. The blue blood power was unable to overtake that part. When the blue blood reached his back, it was like it was vaporized by the heat. Although he could not repel all the blue blood power, it made Han Sen feel a little better. He was having trouble pulling out a mirror, but he took off his blue robe and revealed his naked back. He positioned it in the mirror. Han Sen was shocked when he looked at his back. His back was blood red. The 9-life cat tattoo was glowing. It was the same 9-life cat tattoo that was on Zero's body. Han Sen thought, why has the 9-life cat tattoo appeared again? I thought I vaporized it. Back then, the 9-life cat had combined with him. His back was given this 9-life cat tattoo, but the tattoo was absorbed while he was practicing the Blood Pull Sutra. Now, while the blue blood was taking over Han Sen's body, the previously absent 9-life cat tattoo was revealing itself once more. It was able to repel the conquest of the blue blood. It did not allow the blue blood to overtake his body. Han Sen thought, in the past, the 9-life cat pendant was able to restrict the blue blood. Although I absorbed it, the effect should still be here. Only Human King's blue blood power is too strong. Even with 9-life cat's power, it cannot completely keep the blue blood power at bay. The blue blood and 9-life cat tattoo power were able to be activated by the Blood Pull Sutra, yet they were bad for each other. The 9-life cat tattoo's power was a bit weak, and it only appeared on his back. The blue blood had still taken over the rest of his body. The two powers were stuck inside Han Sen's body. Neither could get complete control of him. Han Sen could barely control his own body. He tried his hardest to get up, but he did not know where he was. Also, he could not use galaxy teleportation. He could not just run away now. That is a planet with life. Han Sen looked around. He noticed that, not too far away from the planet, there was a giant planet. It looked closer than the moon did to Earth. He saw mountains and giant trees on it. Han Sen watched it for a while. He noticed the planet contained buildings. He forced his body to fly to that planet. Now, Han Sen could only use his body's power to fly. He wanted to know where he currently was. The blue blood and red blood in his body kept waging a war inside him. The feeling was corrosive, and it was awfully painful. Plus, Han Sen could not control his body. Even a short-distance flight like this was enough to make him shiver and shake. He looked as if he was going to fall any second. Pang! He entered the atmosphere of the planet. When he did, Han Sen was drawn down by the planet's gravity. He could not control his body, so he fell straight down. Fortunately, his body was strong enough. He fell from a high place and hit the woods. He broke the branches on the way down and avoided injury. Han Sen got up from the ground. He flew toward the buildings on the mountains he had seen. After a while, he reached the building through flight. He finally saw what that building really looked like. When he did, he felt disappointed. It was an old-style, wooden building. It looked like a very old house. Judging from the material and style of it, the technology of this planet had yet to reach the interstellar era. If I am here, perhaps I can ask a thing or two. Han Sen landed in front of the door. He wanted to knock, but he saw the door open itself. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Come in. An old man at the gate smiled at Han Sen and walked back into the old house. Who are you? Han Sen frowned. Come on in first. You are already in such a state. There is nothing to be afraid of. The old man did not look back as he spoke. Han Sen thought the old man was correct. He was already like this, so what more could he be afraid of? He walked into the old house. He entered the living room with the old man. The living room was very old. There was a square table that was still whole, but the red paint on it was peeling. It revealed the original wood color. It looked very old. Drink something. The old man sat on a wooden chair and handed Han Sen his wine gourd. Han Sen accepted the wine gourd but did not say anything. He opened the lid and had a swig. With the power of his body, especially with the fact he was still wrestling with the blue blood, not many toxins could hurt his body. He did not have to fear the elixir. If you want to do something, then tell me. Han Sen gave the wine gourd back to the old man and sat in the doorframe. He looked like a dead pig that was unafraid of boiling water. The old man drank some wine too. He swallowed it, smiled at Han Sen, and asked, "Do you believe in fate?" "Yeah, but not all," Han Sen replied. "What makes you say that?" the old man asked with interest. "There are a lot of things that are meant to be in life," Han Sen said. "If you want more, you have to fight for it." The old man looked at Han Sen and asked, "What if I told you that you and your family were all meant to be dead? Would you believe me?" "Believe? All creatures will die one day." Han Sen was not mad, so that was how he replied. The old man shook his head. He did not continue with that particular subject. He pulled out an object and gave it to Han Sr. "This is for you. It should help you." Han Sen did not immediately grab it. He was looking at the item in the old man's hand. He was holding a transparent tube-shaped container. There was some blood-red liquid inside. "What is that?" Han Sen asked. "It is a medicine that can control the blood power," the old man said. "It can make your blood stable, but it is only temporary. It does not really solve the problem. If you want to sort out the problem concerning your blood, you need to find someone." The old man threw the medicine at Han Sen. Han Sen took the medicine. He frowned and asked, "Who are you? What is your aim?" "I actually found out a disaster was set to occur in your fate," the old man said with a laugh. "I am here to help you through it. Do you believe me?" Han Sen looked at the old man but did not speak. He was not 3 years old. He would not believe in words that sounded like a trick. The old man knew Han Sen did not believe it. He shrugged his shoulders and drank his wine. "If what I have told you is something you do not believe, do you believe in the words spoken to you by Han Jinji? Are you Han Jinji?" Han Sen was shocked. His eyes were open wide as he looked at the old man. He knew Han Jinji hailed from a faction that was full of scammers a long time ago. They pretended to be fortune tellers. By doing that, they scammed people. It was just like the old man said. "Since we are relatives, you should be calling me great-granddad." The old man smiled. "How am I supposed to know if you are really Han Jinji?" Han Sen asked. "If you really are, you might not have the same blood as me. If I did not leave the Blood Legion's secret item, the pendant, your body would have been corroded by blue blood," Han Jinji said. "You would not be having this chance to talk to me right now." Han Sen looked at Han Jinji and asked, "The notebook, what was written with the relic?" He took this very seriously. The old man in front of him was Han Jinji. He had been chasing down mysteries about him for a very long time. Perhaps now he would finally receive the answers he sought. The old man remember, I wrote down the super god gene with a question mark," Han Jinji said. Han Sen looked at Han Jinji with shock. He had been looking for him for many years. Now, he had finally discovered Han Jinji standing right in front of him. He did not know what to ask. Han Sen opened his mouth. He wished to say something, but he did not say anything. Han Jinji spoke first. "You are my great-grandchild. Your father is my grandchild. There is no doubting this." Han Sen opened his mouth, but Han Jinji stopped him from speaking. "In the past, I had no choice. I had to shirk my identity and keep your father in the Han house. Someone in the Han family lost their life because of it. Just like your father said, we own the Han family. All these things should be paid back. We owe them that." It was hard for Han Sen to find a gap to speak. He tried to speak again, but Han Jinji said, "Do not ask me why I do this. Even if I was to explain, you would not believe me. Just like you did not believe what I said when I said your family would die." Han Sen opened his mouth. This time, Han Jinji did not stop him. Yet, he could not speak. That was because the question Han Sen had thought of before had already been answered. Now, he did not know what to ask. Han Jinji smiled. He poured out some wine and said, "The blue blood inside your body was me. I had Human King give it to you." "Why?" Han Sen's heart sank. He did not expect Human King would end up giving him blue blood. Now, there was a twist like this to the story. Only by doing that could you stop the unfortunate things from happening, Han Jinji weirdly said. "What unlucky thing?" Han Sen asked. "Is it like you said? Will my family die?" "Not just you," Han Jinji seriously said. "The entire world. Are you saying I'm the savior?" Han Sen coldly laughed. He looked at Han Jinji as if he was a liar. "No, you are not," Han Jinji said. "No one is a savior. Everything is meant to be destroyed. What we can do is stop the end from being the end." "What does that mean?" Han Sen frowned. Han Jinji shook his head. "That is what I meant. There are things that even if I explained, you would not believe me. No matter what, we deal with the blue blood problem first. Drink the medicine and restrict the blood's power. Then, look for Han Yufei. Only she will have a way to control the blue blood power within you." "I do not need the blue blood power," Han Sen said. "No, you do need it," Han Jinji said with certainty. "You need the blue blood power so Qin Xiu cannot kill you." "Wasn't Qin Xiu killed a long time ago?" Han Sen was shocked. "It would be good if he was dead." Han Jinji stood up and glanced at the backyard. He then looked at Han Sen and said, "Only blue blood power can combat blue blood power. If you cannot win, you can at least have a chance of surviving. Willing or not, you are already blue blood. There is no other choice now. Han Yufei is on a cold planet. Go and find her. Tell her who you are, and she will help you." Han Sen looked at Han Jinji and thought of many things. To be honest, from now on, Han Sen still thought the Han Jinji was still kind of fake. Even though it might have been him, what he talked about was hard to believe. It was beyond belief. Han Sen looked at Han Jinji and said, "Many people say you cannot have babies. Why is that? Go and find Han Yufei. She will give you all the answers you want." Han Jinji looked at the sky and said, "There is no time. The red umbrella is coming. You should go." "Red umbrella?" Han Sen asked. "Is that the woman with Human King? What is your relationship with him?" Han Jinji looked at Han Sen and laughed. He suddenly kicked Han Sen in the face and pushed him back. There should have been a stone floorboard behind him, but Han Sen had flipped the stone floorboard. He fell. It was like he was falling into an abyss. "Kid, remember to live no matter what. Even if things are bleak, don't ever give up. You must live at all costs because you need to live. Do that, and your family has hope." Han Jinji's voice rang in Han Sen's ear. Han Sen felt some power continue to pull him down. He could not shake it off. Perhaps it was because Han Sen could not control his body now, but that power could not stop him. Now, Han Sen was not able to stop falling.
Bang.
Han Sen felt as if his body had hit water. He was following the stream, continuously rolling in its flow. He did not know how far he had rolled. He stabilized his body and came out of the water. He realized he was emerging from a lake. He saw many grass fields around and clear blue skies overhead. The lake was so clean that it was like a mirror. The sky was reflected in the water. It made people feel as if they were swimming in the sky. What is this place? Han Sen knew that it was not a simple place since he had fallen there through strange means. He had likely fallen through some teleport. Otherwise, he would not have ended up in that lake. He went to a place that was like a mountain. There were many mountains and dense woods around him. No matter how he had fallen, he would not have found himself in a field. Han Sen looked around. He noticed space was different from before. He was no longer in the same system. He wanted to get up, but the red and blue blood were causing too much of a conflict in his body. His limbs were numb. He could barely control himself. Han Sen knew that if this continued, he would lose complete control of his body. He knew his body would guide him to do something he could not control. He gnashed his teeth. He used his shaky hands to grab the medicine Han Jinji had given him. He popped the lid and drank the liquid. Now, he needed to heal himself like a dead horse. He could not allow himself to lose control. Han Sen still did not understand things very much. He did not understand why the blue blood inside his veins gave him a desire to kill Bauer. He had no such feelings for Bai King or Sun Moon God Ape. Is it because of the xenogeneic battle body or Bauer herself? Han Sen suddenly could not think of the answer. Han Sen drank the medicine, which tasted like spring water. It expressed all the bloody air. The effect was better than a pill that stopped diarrhea. Blood Pulse Sutra was running at an insane pace. Without the blood air, it finally stopped running. No matter if it was the blue blood or the 9-life cat tattoo, it was like a fire had been put out. Everything quieted down. It works. Han Sen got control of his body again, but then he felt depressed. When Blood Pulse Sutra stopped, his body had no more power to run. No matter the Geno Art or Blood Pulse Sutra he tried to cast, nothing worked. That meant Han Sen's body had true God-class power, but no special skills to use. Right now, Han Sen could jump very high, but he was unable to fly. He could punch a star, but his fist had to touch a star to do that. This is bad. I cannot fly now. How else can I go to the cold planet? Han Sen felt a bit sad. Han Sen was able to risk using the Blood Pulse Sutra power again. Yet, he was that afraid after using the Blood Pulse Sutra, he would end up activating the blue blood power again. If that happened, he would be in trouble. It looks like I will have to see if my Super God Spirit mode can break the blue blood power. Han Sen ceased hesitating. He tried to use his Super God Spirit mode. Boom! A bright, white light was on Han Sen's body. It made him go into Super God Spirit mode. His entire body was like a God Spirit in space. All of the powers returned to Han Sen's body. Because of Warner, the Super God Spirit mode only lasted a short amount of time. Han Sen quickly returned to his normal body. I cannot remove this weird situation affecting my body. Han Sen noticed he was still unable to use any gene power. On top of that, his blood was still blue. It looks like I must go to the cold planet. Han Sen planned to go to the cold planet. Even if Super God Spirit mode could remove his blue blood, he still wanted to find Han Yufei and ask her what was going on. Now, he could not remove the blue blood restrictions. That meant he really had to go. Han Yufei should be the woman who was trapped in Two Worlds Mountain. If I know her face, then she was in Two Worlds Mountain. Finding her should be easy, but how do I go to the cold planet? Han Sen rested for a while. He let his body recover before using Super God Spirit body again. That way, he could use all kinds of Geno arts. At that moment, he used Dongxian area to scan the planet. He looked at the star map to review the geography. The results were disappointing. It was just a primitive planet. There were creatures, but they were low-life creatures. There was not a single creature with intelligence that could talk. It was the same with the planets around him. Han Sen was not familiar with those planets. Aside from this planet, no other planet had life or civilization of any kind. That means I can only risk using galaxy teleportation. Han Sen was glad his Super God Spirit mode could be used. Otherwise, he would be jumping around in space. He would not know when he would reach the cold planet if he did that. Han Sen rested on the grass for a while. After he recovered his energy, Han Sen used the Super God Spirit mode again. He used its moment of time to make use of galaxy teleportation. Because he was unable to confirm the location and distance, he used luck to teleport. He did not know which way to go or where the desired location was situated. Han Sen prayed, "Please, God, be nice to me. Let me teleport to a planet with intelligent life." Padong. Super God Spirit mode lost its effect. Han Sen fell out of galaxy teleportation. He felt as if he had fallen into water again. Am I having some extremely bad luck with water? Why do I keep falling into water? Han Sen dragged himself out of the water. After looking around, he did not know what to say. He had fallen into water, but he did not fall into a lake or river. It was not a sea or a bathtub. He had fallen into a big pot. It was a very big, steel pot. The pot was 12 feet wide and about 21 to 24 feet tall. It was half filled with water. Some other things were floating in there. There were chives, ginger, garlic, and chili. Han Sen started to salivate. He licked it. He felt a numb and spicy taste overwhelm his mouth. Holy crap! Why did I teleport into someone's hot pot? What is he doing, cooking numb and spicy fish? Han Sen looked around. He discovered the pot had a lot of green and red chilies, and many other spices he could not even recognize. The red and green chilies were all bigger than his head. It was not some normal species. Han Sen wanted to get out of the pot. When he looked at the bottom of the pot, he froze. The pot had more than just spicy chilies. There was something alive in it. Han Sen knew it was something living. What is going on? Has the God List Fights number 8 Empty Dragon King become a crayfish in a spicy hot pot? No. He is numb and spicy Dragon King now. Han Sen looked at the living thing at the bottom. He did not know what to think. A dead xenogenic body was in the giant steel pot. It was entirely shelled and looked like a centipede. It was at the bottom of the pot. Although the shell had been cooked, it was a bit red. The shell was a bit different from Empty Dragon King, who was black. Still, Han Sen knew for sure that it was Empty Dragon King. Its name was Empty Dragon King, but it was not like it grew like a dragon. Its body was like a centipede. Its head was like a beetle, and its tail was like a scorpion. It had also had the wings of a dragonfly. With that appearance, whoever saw it would never forget it. Han Sen had seen it fight. He remembered it clearly. Empty Dragon King's power was the top in a true god, and it had empty elements that enabled it to go through materials. Who was powerful enough to kill it and turn it into numb and spicy Dragon King? Han Sen did not think his power was inferior to Empty Dragon King, but killing it would not have been easy. Empty Dragon King's power was rather like Little Star Star. It could go through all materials, and it could go through empty material space. It was a foe that was incredibly hard to deal with. Han Sen was next to the pot. He stuck his head out and carefully looked outside the pot. He could not use power. He could not use blue blood either. He was unable to fight, and his opponent had cooked Empty Dragon King. It was best if he remained careful. Han Sen looked around and discovered that he was in a giant cave. The stone pot he thought he had found himself in was not actually a pot. It looked like a wok. A wok was like a legless tripod. It was a tool used to cook fish and meat in ancient times. Now, it had been turned into a tool of torture. In the control of a violent leader, the prisoners were thrown into the wok and cooked alive. That wok was hanging by a few large chains that were as thick as thighs. It was hanging in the cave. There was a fire on the ground below the cave. It was spitting out flames. It kept burning the big wok and boiling the water inside it. It kept releasing heat. Empty Dragon King, which was inside the wok, had been cooked red. Fortunately, Han Sen's body had absorbed the blue blood. It made him highly resistant to heat. The heat that could cook Empty Dragon King was unable to cook his body. It was just that the water was a bit hot. The smell of the food also kept going into his nose. I do not know where this pot and fire came from that it can create such heat in the pot. If I was here for a long time, I would end up being cooked just like Empty Dragon King. Han Sen noticed the cave was empty. He wanted to climb out from the pot, but he suddenly heard someone speaking at the cave's entrance. Someone walked into the cave. Han Sen went back into the pot. He was half submerged in the water. He used a large green chili to hide his body so he could eavesdrop. He heard a rough voice say, "Empty Dragon King has been cooking for so long, yet he still isn't cooked. How long will it take to bring out all the essences of his genes?" A person with a sharp voice, which did not sound yin or yang, said, "You have not been here for long. You do not know how things are here. I remember how long it took to cook the growler. It took 3.9 billion years to cook until the geno essence was cooked out. This Empty Dragon King was not as strong as the growler, but it is a top-class true god. Without 18 million years, I do not think the essence will be cooked out. I say we do not have to go to such trouble," the rough voice said. "Just cook Empty Dragon King. Isn't that faster?" The sharp voice rang again. "Of course not. You need to cook the whole thing slowly, so that the baby god wok can cook the geno essence out completely. Therefore, the geno essence will not be damaged. That is how we cooked the xenogenics in the past. I'm afraid this time it is too late. The lady is going to be an adult. In the coming-of-age ceremony, she has to drink geno holy fluid. Before the lady has her coming-of-age ceremony, we must cook Empty Dragon King's gene essence all out. I thought you said it takes at least 10 million years, the rough voice said with confusion. The lady's coming-of-age ceremony is in 2 days. How are we going to cook it?" Otherwise, why would Master ask us to come here? The sharp voice asked. We need to make the fire stronger so it will be done before the adult ceremony. We need to get the empty Dragon King's essence all out. I thought you said if we cook it too fast, the gene essence will be destroyed. That is what would happen normally, but Master allowed me to bring this treasure. Put this in the pot and cook it together. It can speed up the cooking time, and the gene essence will still be whole. You just need to follow my instructions. When the lady has finished her adult ceremony, the Master will reward us. When Han Sen heard that, he saw a creature in front of the pot. Han Sen could only raise his head far enough to see a part of it. He could not see anything else. The creature's head was half the size of the pot. It looked very weird. Its face was black, and there was a giant eye on its nose. The head had a horn that blazed with green fire. It looked like a one-eyed ghost king. Han Sen had no information about that xenogeniac, and he could not use his sense power. He did not know the xenogeniac's level. The xenogeniac looked into the pot. It looked like it was looking at empty Dragon King. He saw empty Dragon King's shell turn red. He shook his head and said, "The shell just turned red. We must hurry up." After that, the ghost king-like xenogeniac took a box out of a chest. It carefully pulled something out and placed it in the pot. It seemed to think of something and screamed, "Stop squeezing! Spit out your true young fire. Hurry up with the fire. We must cook all the empty Dragon King's gene essence out before the adult ceremony." "It smells so nice," the rough voice said. "I just want to take a look." "What are you looking at? If your saliva drops in there, you will ruin the lady's holy genofluid. If we do that, we will not be permitted to live. Hurry up with your work." Han Sen watched them argue. He did not listen. He looked at the thing that had been thrown into the pot and was shocked. The xenogeniac in the pot was a newborn baby. It looked like a human baby. It was a fat human baby. The baby was in the pot. The boiling water in the pot made it loudly cry. The baby's meaty little hands and legs were being burned red. It kept splashing the water. Han Sen knew the little kid was not a human. The temperature of the pot was enough to cook true God-class flesh. If that little kid was a human baby, before it was even in the pot, the heat of the steam would have cooked its flesh. The kid that was in the water now was just a little burned skin. It still struggled in the water, but whatever it was nothing normal. "What is this thing in here?" Han Sen looked at the baby crying in the water. He had many guesses, but he did not know what sort of race it was. Han Sen could not use the Dongxian aura. He could not see what things were like outside the pot, but the water temperature kept rising. He did not need to see anything to know that the two xenogeniacs were using fire element powers to heat the baby godwalk. "What do I do now?" Han Sen had to rest a little longer before he could use Super God Spirit mode again, but the temperature of the pot was getting higher. Even his skin was starting to feel prickly and painful. The baby cried even louder. It kept making splashes in the water. Although its skin was hardy, it was just a baby. It could not really move. It could not escape the baby godwalk. The little baby struggled a bit. It somehow approached Han Sen. "Go, go, go. Do not come any closer." Han Sen saw it almost kick away the green chili next to him. Han Sen used his hands to try and push it away. The little baby touched Han Sen's hand and discovered him. It was like a koala bear. A fat little hand held onto Han Sen's arm. It stopped crying and looked at Han Sen with puppy eyes. "I can barely save myself. I cannot save you. Go, go, go." Han Sen kept thinking as he tried to swing it away. He wanted to lose the little baby's clutch on him. The little baby was like it was stuck on his arm. He could not shake it off. Han Sen did not dare to speak or make a big movement. He did not know what to do with the presence of that baby. Weird. Why did the ancient spirit seed stop crying? The one-eyed xenogeniac's nasally voice was heard again. It gave Han Sen a chill. "He must have gotten cooked," the rough voice said. "Ground heart flame. The baby godwalk is already so hot. With my true young flame and your ghost underworld fire, it was bound to cook this true god xenogeniac. It was just a baby." "What do you know?" the one-eyed xenogeniac asked. "That was not a normal baby. It was an ancient spirit seed, you know?" "What is an ancient spirit seed?" the rough voice asked with confusion. The one-eyed xenogeniac coldly said, I cannot believe you used to be a leader of a system, yet you don't even know about the ancient gods' ancient spirit seeds. After pausing, the one-eyed Xenogeneic explained, ancient gods are based on their ancient god origins. That is how they go on. When the old ancient gods die, they leave an ancient god origin behind so new ancient gods can be created. So, the number of ancient gods is fixed. There will not be any more, and there will not be any less unless the ancient god origin is destroyed. The ancient god will use a mysterious ritual to make new ancient gods, but there is only one ancient god that has ever had their ancient god origin destroyed. He activated the ritual and made a new ancient god. This ancient god comes about like a newborn baby, and their powers have not been approved. They cannot support elemental powers. That is why they are called ancient spirit seeds. They will become a real ancient god once they receive the approval of an element. Does that mean the ancient spirit seeds are ancient gods? Do we use ancient spirit seeds to make genofluid and give it to the lady? Does that mean we are eating those of the same kind? The rough voice had not finished talking when it was interrupted. Be quiet. Don't keep talking. No one would ever think you are a mute. The one-eyed Xenogeneic hushed his voice and said, our master is the king of the ancient gods. One ancient spirit seed is nothing. Even if you cooked a real ancient god, no one would say anything. The volume of the rough voice lowered as it quietly replied, weird. The rules claim ancient god needs to wait until the old ancient gods die before the new ancient gods can be reborn. If that is true, why does the master only have the lady as an heir? That is not a secret you and I are allowed to know about. Stop talking and hurry up with the fire. We must cook the genofluid before the lady's adult ceremony can begin. We cannot afford to fail at this. The one-eyed Xenogeneic briefly paused and went on to say, you keep cooking. I will take a look at what happened to that ancient spirit seed. You do not need to look. It must have been cooked. Just do as I tell you and stop talking crap. Han Sen heard the one-eyed Xenogeneic move. He looked at the ancient spirit seed, which was still holding his arm like a koala bear. There were many tears in its eyes. It made him sigh. I cannot believe I am in the realm of the ancient god, and this is ancient god king's territory. Can I escape with what I have now? He saw the one-eyed Xenogeneic's head come above the pot. Han Sen brought the ancient spirit seed with him in a jump. Han Sen stepped onto the one-eyed Xenogeneic's head and started to fly. He ran toward the path leading out of the cave. The moment he rushed out, Han Sen saw another Xenogeneic. It was a Xenogeneic that looked like a black bear, but it had 8 arms. It was spitting out a fire at the bottom of the wok. Its brain did not seem to work. It saw Han Sen bring the ancient spirit seed out with it. It watched Han Sen head through the tunnel and did not do anything. Why are you standing here? The one-eyed Xenogeneic madly shouted. There is an enemy that has invaded here. He has taken the ancient spirit seed. Hurry up and chase after him. He turned around and raced down the tunnel where Han Sen had run off into. Because the tunnel Han Sen had selected was only tall enough for one person, the one-eyed Xenogeneic was too big to give pursuit. So, he had to break through the rocks to maintain the pace. Han Sen could not use Geno arts, but his body power was true god class. When he ran, he was like lightning. He quickly down the many tunnels that led to various places. People could not even see his shadow. The ancient spirit seed held onto Han Sen's arm. Its small face was twisted. It was being blown by the wind. Han Sen put the ancient spirit seed onto his chest. The ancient spirit seed let go of his arm. Its hands were now clutching Han Sen's clothing. It opened his eyes and smiled at Han Sen. Han Sen did not have the sensing power of the Dongxian aura. He just went down every path he came to and crossed every bridge he saw. He was like a headless fly traveling down the tunnels. Fortunately, he did not encounter any other Xenogeneics. He also did not see anyone else from the ancient gods. Han Sen eventually felt a bit safer. Suddenly, the cave up ahead widened. There was a large underground space with many weird flowers and fruits. It was a beautiful underground garden. A white-clothed girl was sitting on a swing in the garden. She was looking at Han Sen and the ancient spirit seed that had just entered the garden. Why are you here? Han Sen and the white-clothed lady both spoke at almost the same time. The lady in front of him was the Dragon Lady chef. She had left Space Garden to practice. She had yet to return. Han Sen wondered where she had gotten to. He certainly did not expect to run into her there. I don't know. I was on a xenogeneic island hunting xenogeneics and met a weird guy. He said I could be his inheritor, and he brought me here. Dragon Lady paused and went on to say, he often brings me rare xenogeneic ingredients I can cook with. This place is not all that bad, so I have not been in a hurry to. Those two xenogeneics keep referring to a certain lady. Might that be you? Han Sen's eyes opened wide as he looked at Dragon Lady. He appeared to be surprised. The ancient gods were always mysterious, and that was especially true of Ancient God King. If that Dragon Lady could inherit Ancient God King's stuff, perhaps she would be able to become very powerful in the universe and no one would dare provoke her. What lady? Are you insulting me? Dragon Lady frowned. Not that kind of lady, Han Sen wanted to explain, but he suddenly heard a booming sound. The one-eyed xenogeneic and the eight-armed black bear xenogeneic came rushing in. Kid, where are you going to run? Get ready to die. The eight-armed black bear weirdly shouted. 8 of his pores were shining. They created 8 little suns that were lobbed at Han Sen. Big dumb bear, what are you doing? Dragon Lady shouted at the eight-armed black bear. The eight-armed black bear heard Dragon Lady's voice. It made his entire body shake. He made his little suns even smaller. He wished to say something, but the one-eyed xenogeneic spoke first. My lady, this kid stole the ancient spirit seed. We are going to take it back. You should avoid this situation and allow me to reclaim the ancient spirit seed. We can talk all about this later. After that, the one-eyed xenogeneic and eight-armed black bear wanted to resume the attack on Han Sr. How many times must I tell you guys to not call me lady? Dragon Lady coldly shouted. Plus, who is allowing you to capture people in my place? Furthermore, he is a friend of mine. If you guys touch one finger of his, I will turn you guys into barbecued pork. He is. Little Masters, is he your friend? The one-eyed xenogeneic and the eight-armed black bear were in shock. Get out of here before I cook you, Dragon Lady coldly said. We can't do that, the eight-armed black bear angrily said. He still has the ancient spirit seed. If we don't take it back, the master will scold us. The one-eyed xenogeneic quickly pulled the eight-armed black bear back, smiled and said, You should rest, little master. We will leave now. After that, the one-eyed xenogeneic pulled the eight-armed black bear away. The eight-armed black bear looked unsatisfied as it asked, What are you pulling me away for? If we do not bring back the ancient spirit seed, and master is angry, we are going to be done for. You don't know anything, the one-eyed xenogeneic said. The Geno-Holy Fluid is for the master giving it to the lady. If the lady's commands were disobeyed, the master would be even angrier. Then, our situation will be made even worse. If the lady has already told us what to do, then this incident is out of our hands. We should just go and tell master. It hastened its departure. In the garden, Dragon Lady checked Han Sen out and said, That weird man poured blue blood all over you. Your body seems a little different. Did you see it too? Yes, I am a little different. Han Sen had a wry smile. Your muscles appear leaner, Dragon Lady said while looking at Han Sr. The fat ratio has been lowered. Meat like this is not suitable for cooking. You would do fine as a meatball. Han Sen's forehead developed a cold sweat. Don't look at me like I am food. After pausing, Han Sen looked at the Dragon Lady and said, It looks like you improved fast. You look like you have improved a lot. As I said, that weird guy gave me a lot of high-class xenogeneic ingredients, so I have a lot of high-class genes, Dragon Lady replied. I am butterfly class now. He says he is going to get me a Geno-Holy Fluid. He said that if I drink it, I can become a true god. So, the empty Dragon King in the wok has been cooked for you. Han Sen sounded jealous. What empty Dragon King? Dragon Lady sounded surprised. Han Sen explained the whole thing. Dragon Lady sounded a bit angry. How could they do this? They really shouldn't have. Such a cute little baby. How could they dare to cook it?
Han Sen nodded.
The ancient spirit seed on his arm nodded too. Dragon Lady said with seriousness. Right, for such a superior ingredient, how could it be cooked so randomly? They should have let me cook it instead. The foreheads of Han Sen and the ancient spirit seed on his arm developed some black lines, especially the ancient spirit seed. It looked scared and tried hiding in Han Sen's arms. Han Sen pointed at the ancient spirit seed and said, "Cough, cough. By the way, Dragon Lady, if there are not many effects and there is a replacement, can we not kill it for my sake?" The thing really did look like a human baby. Han Sen did not want to see it become food. "I am fine with that," Dragon Lady said while opening her arms. "I just do not know if he will agree." Plight. A voice echoed across the giant, underground garden. A god spirit-looking character broke space and entered the garden.
Han Sen felt a chill.
He looked at the god spirit-like person. In the shiny light, he saw a male body. Because of the rainbow light, he could not see exactly what he looked like. "My name is Han Senator. Are you ancient god king?" Although Han Sen did not feel the power of his opponent, with that atmosphere, he knew he should have been something big. Ancient God King coldly asked, "Are you Dragon Lady's friend?" "Call me Ancient Origin God." "You said you can let him live?" Han Sen quickly asked. "Is that true?" "Of course, I can let him go, but without it, Empty Dragon King cannot be cooked in a short period of time. It will delay the time needed to create the Geno Holy Fluid. Unless, Ancient Origin God did not keep talking. You can just tell me directly." Han Sen knew there was something else. "Unless you can find a replacement. From what I have seen, you are not bad." Ancient Origin God looked at Han Sen as he spoke. When he said that, Han Sen's expression changed. He felt sorry for the ancient spirit seed, but not enough to trade his life for it. He would not die for it. Dragon Lady stopped before Han Senator. She looked at Ancient Origin God as she said, "He is my friend. You cannot lay a finger on him." "Don't be so worried," Ancient Origin God coldly said. "I just wanted a drop of his blood. It is not like I was going to put him inside the baby god wok to cook. Why are you being so nervous?" Han Sen and Dragon Lady felt relieved, but Han Sen was still curious. He looked at Ancient Origin God and asked, "Why do you my blood?" "If you take the ancient spirit seed, we will require a replacement," Ancient Origin God said. "Your blood can be that replacement." Han Sen frowned and did not say anything in response. The entire universe knew Human King had poured blue blood all over him. The blood in his body was blue. Now, Ancient Origin God wanted a drop of his blood. He did not think it was as simple as Ancient Origin God was making it out to be. One drop of blood was not a major loss for Han Sen either. To be able to get the ancient spirit seed in return for a drop of blood was an acceptable exchange. "Okay, I will make the trade," Han Sen said as he looked at Ancient Origin God. "But there is something I would like you to help me with." "I know what you are going to ask about," Ancient Origin God said. "Give the ancient spirit seed to Dragon Lady, then you may follow me." After speaking, he walked out of the garden. Han Sen gave the ancient spirit seed to Dragon Lady and said, "Wait here." "I am coming with you," Dragon Lady said with a frown. "Do not worry," Han Sen said with a laugh. "Moment God was unable to do anything to me, so he cannot do anything." Dragon Lady looked at Ancient Origin God as he departed and said to Han Sen, "He is the king of the ancient gods. He is not any weaker than Moment God, so do not be reckless." Han Sen replied, "I understand. Just wait for me here." He passed the ancient spirit seed into Dragon Lady's arms. The ancient spirit seed was nice and grabbed Dragon Lady's neck. After he left the underground garden, Han Sen saw Ancient Origin God ahead. He quickly caught up with him. Ancient Origin God kept walking and said, "We ancient gods were once the leaders of this world. We ate the livers of dragons and dined on the guts of phoenixes. Everything was our food until Sacred Leader and Sacred appeared. Our people suppressed the sky. We were invincible." Han Sen did not know why Ancient Origin God was suddenly talking about all of that. He had heard about it before since the ancient gods had a bright history. But that was a long ago and few recalled their past glories. It was not just the ancient gods era either. Even the sacred era was only remembered by a few old antiques. Most creatures of the universe did not even know the word sacred. All they knew about were the very high, ancient gods and extreme king. Ancient gods were not as famous as the ancient gods of yore, who were able to conquer the universe. Ancient Origin God went on to say, But when Sacred appeared and the god spirits descended to fight, the ancient gods fell. We were not the leaders of the universe anymore. Do you know why the ancient gods were made like so? Han Sen was quiet a moment before saying, ancient gods breed by the generations. If the ancient god origin is not destroyed, the ancient gods can carry on. Their powers are not damaged. According to the theory, you guys can be the best. I also think it is weird how ancient gods ended up like so. Ancient origin god said, yes. From back then until now, 3,000 ancient gods, not one more and not one less. Even if an ancient god's ancient god origin was destroyed, they can be reborn as a new ancient god in Godland. In theory, the ancient gods can be in the best condition. He seemed pretty excited as he spoke. Even the rainbow lights on him looked weird. Ancient origin god went on to say, but that is just a theory. In fact, after Sacred appeared, ancient gods have been less. Are you saying Sacred killed ancient gods? Han Sen asked with a frown. That is not right. Even if they killed ancient gods and destroyed their ancient god origins, your godland can create more ancient gods. They should not be reduced like that. Ancient origin god coldly said, that is why we feel so weird. Our ancient gods are missing. We cannot see them, and we cannot find their dead bodies. In Godland, no ancient god can respawn. They just vanish from the universe. There were 3,000 ancient gods, but now there are only 300 ancient gods. Even our god king is gone. He disappeared after the Sacred era. Did that really happen? Han Sen quietly asked. If so, it leaves only one possibility. Someone imprisoned these ancient gods. That is what we thought too, Ancient Origin God said with a sigh. We have scoured the entire universe. No matter whether it was sacred or outer sky, our people's searches were in vain. We were never able to find anyone. Although we guess Sacred did something, there has been no evidence to support it. Now, Sacred is destroyed, so it is so difficult to get to the truth. Han Sen thought, something so evil. There is an 80% to 90% chance it was done by Qin Xiu. Aside from him, who else would have had the means to make the famous ancient gods be reduced to this? Han Sen did not say that out. He looked at Ancient Origin God and asked, so, are you not old God King's heir? Ancient Origin God nodded. After our God King died, our people were forced to pick a new God King. That was my past life. I had no relation to old God King. Han Sen grabbed his jaw as he said to himself, so, are you saying Dragon Lady? Yes. In her body, there is an old God King origin gene. It exists within her. For some reason, her body has mixed with the genes of another creature. It made her blood very impure. Ancient Origin God confirmed Han Sen's guess and added, although things are like that, her God King gene is still complete. It just needs to be activated. I am going to use the Ancient God special food recipe to make Dragon Lady eat many xenogeneic gene essences so she can activate her God King gene. She will then take the seat of the true God King. Han Sen frowned after hearing that. The king of the ancient gods sounded powerful. Now that he thought about it, the world was in chaos. Demons were dancing everywhere. God spirits were everywhere. Allowing Dragon Lady to assume responsibilities for an entire race was likely not a good thing. Han Sen stared at Ancient Origin God and asked, have you asked for Dragon Lady's opinion about all this yet? Ancient Origin God smiled. Don't worry, we ancient gods no longer have the ambition to rule the universe. We just want to survive. We just want to find out where the missing ancient gods went. If Dragon Lady does not want to become God King, we will not force her. If she can continue the God King blood, that would be enough. It does not matter if she becomes a God King or not. She just needs to continue on with our blood, and we need the Geno Holy Fluid. Han Sen stared at Ancient Origin God and suddenly asked, why do you need my blood? Ancient Origin God returned Han Sen's gaze. He coldly said, because your blue blood belongs to Sacred Leader. That is the gene power of Sacred. The ancient gods used to rule the universe and eat every race. We absorbed the gene essence of every race to reinforce our bodies, but we never had the gene essence of Sacred. With Sacred Leader's powerful genes, if Dragon Lady can get the help of that gene essence, she will improve even more. When Han Sen heard that, his expression kept changing. It was not like he did not want to give Dragon Lady a drop of his blood, let alone a drop of blood. Han Sen would have given her a bucket of blood if she needed it. For him, it was nothing that would harm him. But that was blood Han Sen could not really give since he could not control the blue blood power. If Dragon Lady had some blue blood and was unable to refine it, she would end up being infected by the blue blood. That would have been bad. Do you really think Sacred Leader's blood was really that easy to absorb? Han Sen seriously asked. To be honest with you, I am infected with the blue blood. I am being controlled by the blue blood power. I cannot take control of my body, and I still cannot find a way to get rid of my blue blood. Are you sure you want Dragon Lady to risk this? If you ask me, it's a bit reckless. When Ancient Origin God heard that, he nodded and said, what you are saying kind of makes sense. Although I, Ancient Origin God, eat all kinds of races, Sacred's genes are different. We must be aware of that. Ancient Origin God was silent a moment before saying, how about this? If Godfather Han is willing to help, give me 1 drop of your blood. I will have an Ancient God try it. If it turns out to be okay, then Dragon Lady can give it a shot. Han Sen did not think that would be a problem. He cut his finger and placed a drop of blue blood into a jade bottle. The blue blood was so still. The color was like blue ink. It did not appear to be anything special. Godfather Han is so nice to us, Ancient God. I will always remember this. Ancient Origin God accepted the jade bottle and called an Ancient God over. The body of the Ancient God was made of something like steel. It was like a steel monster. Han Sen looked at him and knew that he was an Ancient God with metal power. Ancient Iron God, drink this blood. Ancient Origin God gave Ancient Iron God the jade bottle. Yes, sir. Ancient Iron God did not hesitate or ask why. He accepted the jade bottle and drank the blue blood inside it. He swallowed it completely. Han Sen and Ancient Origin God stared at Ancient Iron God. He did not seem to have any reaction to the liquid. Ancient Origin God asked, Ancient Iron God, can you refine that blue blood? Ancient Iron God's face looked weird as he said, that blood is in my stomach. It is like a rock that cannot be refined. Really? Ancient Origin God looked at Han Sen. Han Sen was shocked. When Human King dropped blue blood all over him, the blue blood immediately invaded his body. There was no need for refinement or anything. Now that he thought about it some more, Han Sen started to have a guess. Humans are mixed with Crystallizer and Sacred Leader's blood. Human King is the human alpha. It would be easy for me to combine with his blue blood. If other races seek to use the blue blood, I am afraid that might not be so easy. Ancient Iron God was unable to refine the blue blood. He could not melt it. If I cannot refine it, I will try to put it in the baby God walk. Ancient Origin God made Ancient Iron God spit out the blue blood. The blue blood still looked like crystal. It had not been affected by anything. He put the blue blood back in the jade bottle. Ancient Origin God led Han Sen to a baby God walk. This wasn't the same baby God walk that cooked Empty Dragon King. There was only half a bowl of water in it. The flame beneath it was raging. It kept boiling the water in the pot. No matter how much the water bubbled and boiled, there was no steam. The water levels did not decrease. Ancient Origin God put the drop of blue blood into the water. That drop of blue blood combined with it. It was still in the shape of a liquid blood drop. Ancient Origin God called the 8-armed black bear and 1-eyed Xenogeniac over. The 2 Xenogeniacs spit out flames. One spat green fire, which helped the fire on the ground, but it burned for half a day. It got to the point where the baby Godwalk was all red. The water inside bubbled like a dragon rolling. The blue blood still did not exhibit any changes. Ancient Origin God's face changed. Sacred Leader's blood is very powerful. Even the baby Godwalk cannot cook this gene essence.
Han Sen sighed.
The blue blood is not refined, but maybe that is not a bad thing. With how weird the blue blood is, if it was refined, perhaps that would just lead to a nightmare. Just like what happened to me. Ancient Origin God went silent for a while. He then said, blue blood really is weird. If things are like that, we will research it first. The Geno Holy Fluid will not add this blood. Then, the Ancient Spirit Seed. Han Sen hesitated to say it. Do not worry, Ancient Origin God said. I promised you I would not take its life. I will find another way to cook and extract empty Dragon King's gene essence. Godfather Han, you came just in time. You should come and take part in Dragon Lady's adult ceremony before you depart. Han Sen nodded and agreed. This was a big thing for Dragon Lady. Han Sen wanted to go to the cold planet, but he might as well remain there for another 2 days. Back in Dragon Lady's garden, Han Sen and Dragon Lady talked about how they had been in recent times. Dragon Lady learned that Han Sen had been trapped by the blue blood, and he needed to find Han Yufei somewhere on the cold planet. She said, "Ancient origin god said I can leave freely after the adult ceremony. I can accompany you to the cold planet in case you encounter danger out there. Right now, the whole universe knows you have Sacred's blue blood. Many old antiques might want to harass you. If they find where you are, you might end up in danger." Han Sen did not refuse her offer. He smiled and replied, "Thanks. In that case, I will enlist you as my bodyguard." "I am not really a hero," Dragon Lady gently said. "I am just a chef. If someone wants to give me some cooking materials, I would not decline the offer." Han Sen stayed in the garden and waited for the adult ceremony to start. The ancient spirit seed was awfully clingy. It always climbed on Han Sen and never left him. Although it looked like just a baby, it was a newborn ancient god. If it was awakened, it would become an ancient god and get god power. It had not woken up yet, so it was hard to tell what sort of ancient god element it would end up having. Han Sen waited 2 days. It was time for the adult ceremony to start. Ancient origin god invited Han Sen to watch. In a giant ancient god plaza, many ancient gods broke space and appeared. Some ancient gods looked like they were made of fire. Some ancient gods looked like metal ancient gods. Some of them were made of rocks. Every ancient god had their own element. All of them were incredibly scary. Although ancient god had less than 300 people, many of them were already true god. Now, they were all together. Han Sen could not use his Dongxian aura to scan, but he was able to tell how scary they all were. No wonder ancient god is one of the 3 high races. It is hard to imagine what it would be like and how shocked the sky would be if there were 3,000 of these people running about, Han Sen thought. When Ancient Origin God arrived, the adult ceremony started. Ancient Origin God was holding an old copper tool that looked like a June. The item looked lively. It generated steam that came out of its exit. Ancient Origin God looked serious. He held the bronze tool with both hands. He read aloud in a language that Han Sen could not understand. It was like he was praying. It felt mysterious and serious. When Ancient Origin God was praying, his body glowed with rainbow god light. The rainbow god light was strong. Ancient Origin God put his rainbow-like blood into the bronze tool. After that was done, Ancient Origin God gave the bronze tool to another ancient god. That ancient god behaved just like Ancient Origin God. After praying, he placed a drop of rainbow blood into the bronze tool. They passed it to each other. The 200 ancient gods placed their blood into the bronze tool. They then gave it to Dragon Lady. When Dragon Lady held the bronze tool, it kept shining with a rainbow color. The life force was like a rainbow mist. Han Sen was very jealous as he watched. That bronze tool was probably made of many true god-class Xenogeneics. He was able to hear some god-demon big beast crying and roaring. 1 cup of Geno fluid was worth many years of Han Sen's work. Those 300 ancient gods, which was every ancient god's blood, made it enough to boost someone to true god elite status. Han Sen complimented the scene. Are the adult ceremonies of the ancient gods always this lavish? I would really like to become an ancient god. Dragon Lady was standing on the altar. She was holding the bronze tool. She drank the Geno holy fluid in 1 giant gulp. The cup of holy Geno fluid had too much power inside. When it was delivered into Dragon Lady's body, her body underwent radical changes. There were burning flames, lights, invisible wind, and crazy thunder everywhere. The sun, moon, stars, sea, and the sky flashed. Many weird scenes took place on that altar. One was not really able to see where Dragon Lady was amidst it all. That is a massive amount of energy. Can Dragon Lady's body withstand such a large intake? Han Sen started to get worried. That power was too much. Do not worry. She has the God King blood of our people. She can accept the power of the Geno holy fluid. Ancient Origin God had somehow walked next to Han Senator. He looked confident about the result. Are the ancient God adult ceremonies always this lavish? Han Sen asked. Ancient Origin God shook his head. Of course they aren't. This is a traditional ceremony only reserved for the God Kings that are becoming adults. Even if our race could eat everything, when we conquered the universe, only the ancient God King could enjoy such a ceremony. Ordinary ancient gods cannot enjoy such a ceremony. Plus, these days, the ancient gods aren't as rich as they used to be. It is harder to get the ingredients for the Geno Holy Fluid. When I became a God King, not even I was reserved such treatment. This Geno Holy Fluid is not as good as the old ancient God King Geno God Fluid. In the past, there were 3,000 ancient gods, so the elixir was bestowed the power of 3,000 ancient gods. Now, there are only 300 of us. Han Sen agreed with that. If every ancient god played like that, every high-class xenogeneic in the universe would have been eaten by them. Han Sen thought, fortunately, the ancient gods are not as effective as they used to be. If the universe was still controlled by the ancient gods, everyone would be their food. That would be much worse now. Ancient Origin God seemed to see through what Han Sen was thinking. Ancient Origin God calmly said, "We ancient gods are about return to origin. Ancient gods themselves are a part of nature. We only need resources that are enough for us. We do not aspire to take everything. We do not want to be like the other races, attacking and stealing as much as we can to fill our coffers and stomachs. To waste resources for one's enjoyment is selfish. After the ancient gods die, aside from the ancient god origins, their energy returns to the universe." I see. Han Sen now understood. The power the ancient gods had now was insufficient for ruling the world again. It was not difficult to create a faction, but he had never heard of the ancient gods ruling a large area. It seemed as if Ancient Origin God was telling the truth. Boom. Suddenly, they heard a shaking noise come from the altar. Many weird scenes were unfolding there. Dragon Lady's body was revealed. Dragon Lady was wrapped up in some weird armor. She also looked weird. She was like someone praying before an altar. There was a giant and weird wheel behind her. When Han Sen looked closer, he saw that it was not a wheel. It was something that was made of many cutleries. There was a knife, fork, cleaver, and spoon. There was also a barbecued steak and a spatula. They were all cooking utensils. They were behind her back, lined up like a wheel. The first cutlery tool was shining with a godlight. It released a powerful presence. It was like a demon or a god that one was unable to look at. Ancient God King's blood is finally revived, Ancient Origin God said. Because she is a mix, her Ancient God King blood has exhibited some changes. She should not be looking like this. His face was contorted and looked strange. Are these changes good or bad? Han Sen did not have his Dongshin aura to scan her. He did not know if Dragon Lady's situation was good or bad. I do not know. We will take the time to gauge that. Ancient Origin God's answers came thick and fast. After the adult ceremony was complete, many of the ancient gods left. They all lived in different places. It was not commonplace for them to gather together. Dragon Lady, who was wearing armor, walked in front of Ancient Origin God and asked, "Ancient Origin God, are you going to keep your promise and let me go free?" "Of course," Ancient Origin God said with seriousness as he looked at Dragon Lady. "Before that, I really want you to reconsider whether or not you want to continue with asserting the seat of the Ancient God's God King." Dragon Lady shook her head. "I am willing to have the Ancient God identity, but only as an ordinary member of the Ancient Gods. I do not want to be a king to the Ancient Gods." Ancient Origin God smiled and said, "That is fine. I said I would not force you. It is enough for you to admit that you are one of the ancient gods." Han Sen thought the ancient gods would not let her go so easily because they had given her so much. After all, the ancient gods were unlikely to be able to produce another Geno Holy Fluid anytime soon. Ancient Origin God really did set Dragon Lady free. She was able to leave. He even gave Han Sen the directions for the correct cold planet he sought. Han Sen found a place where there was no one else around. He asked Ancient Origin God, "Why don't you stop Dragon Lady? You know I am embarking on a perilous journey. She might be put in danger by following me." Ancient Origin God gently said, "She will be the king of the ancient gods. Our king will be the highest in the food chain. If she cannot go through anything dangerous, she would be unable to stand atop that food chain. So, do you still want her to become king to the ancient gods? Han Sen thought this was right. After all, the ancient gods had given her many resources, so letting her go was not easy. She has the blood of an ancient god king, ancient origin god said. Only she can become the real king for the ancient gods. I cannot force her to become an ancient god king, but I have faith that she will assert the responsibilities by her own volition one day. Are you saying the Geno God Hall or the Sacred Blood? Han Sen could hear the sound of ancient origin god. I don't know, but I can feel this is the calm before the storm. The universe is going to be a mess. We ancient gods cannot wait and watch. I believe Dragon Lady will be a true ancient god. When she needs to accept the responsibilities of king, she will do so with pride. Even if I am down one day, she will carry the ancient god and keep the flame alive. Ancient origin god looked at Han Sen with eyes that were on fire. He seriously asked, Han Sen, tell me, when that time comes, will you be allied with Dragon Lady? If Dragon Lady is willing to have me, I will stand by her side forever, Han Sen seriously said. On the cold planet, a man and a woman traversed a snow area. The man was holding a little baby wearing fur. Ancient origin god had made a space element ancient god teleport to help Han Sen, Dragon Lady, and the ancient spirit seed get to the planet. It saved Han Sen a lot of trouble. Han Sen thought it would not be difficult to find someone on the icy planet. When he reached it, he realized it would not be easy. Although the cold planet was a planet with life, the environment made it a harsh place to live. The temperature of the planet was very low. Many cold element xenogenic creatures were living there. The only beings with high intelligence were a race of creatures called snowmen. The snowmen were not xenogenics. Their technology had yet to reach what was expected of those living in the interstellar era. Even the evolution of their bodies was capped by the planet's level. They were very far behind. The only thing Han Sen discovered was that the snowmen had villages and a language of their own. They did not know how to speak the common tongue of the universe, so it made communication with them difficult. Han Sen and the others visited a dozen snowman villages, but they were unable to gather any news about Han Yufei being there. Is Han Yufei really on the cold planet? Han Sen was starting to wonder whether or not Han Jinji had spoken the truth or not. He had frequently been called the greatest liar, so it would be no surprise if this was just another fib. Han Sen was most depressed about his inability to make use of his Dongxian aura. Otherwise, he could have used it to scan the entire planet. If Han Yufei was really there, she would have been easy to find. Han Sen was thinking about whether or not he should use his Super God Spirit mode to use Dongxian aura for scanning the entire planet when Dragon Lady suddenly asked, "What is this?" Han Sen followed Dragon Lady's direction. There was a snowy mountain in the ice fields. Seeing a snowy mountain was not weird. What was weird about it was that the snowy mountain looked like a giant steam bun sitting on the ice. It looked large and strange. The cold planet had ice and snowy mountains everywhere, but there were no circular ones. The texture of the ice and snow could not have made an ice mountain or snow mountain that was half circular. Let's go and take a look. Han Sen's body moved fast. He was like a bolt of lightning going straight for the half-circular snow mountain. Han Sen soon noticed that it was not a mountain. It was a half-circular building covered with heavy snow. There was no snow near the entrance. I cannot believe there is a high-tech building here. Even if this is not where Han Yufei is, we will likely find a lead or two about her there. Han Sen looked at the curved metal door. He knew the snowmen could not have constructed that building. Dragon Lady followed him. The two of them looked at the building. The metal door opened, allowing Han Sen to see what was inside the building. Does ice compose most of this building's construction? Han Sen noticed that the building was full of semi-transparent ice. No matter if it was a table or platform, it was all made of ice. Only the tools and high-tech stuff was made of metal. Welcome to Zero Laboratory. A very old robot walked out to meet them. Its head was like a big half-circular light bulb. It looked like a police siren. It flickered with red and blue lights. It was headed toward the gate. When Han Sen and Dragon Lady saw the robot, they wanted to say something. Their expressions swiftly changed. The robot's head shone a light on them. It quickly froze their bodies and turned them into ice cubes. I found 3 test subjects. This is great. Master will be so happy. Ha, ha, ha. The robot used a voice that sounded electric, but it did not sound like a robot. Pang. The robot was going to take the frozen Han Sen and others away when the cold dragon lady's body suddenly flickered with light. She broke out of the ice that encased her and raised her hands. A giant knife and fork appeared in them. Even though you are a robot, you must still be able to understand food. Dragon Eater's 8 skills knife and fork dance. Dragon Lady sounded calm, but the knife in her hand was like a storm as it attacked the robot. Noises of metal clashing sounded everywhere. The robot was captured by the fork. When the knife and fork danced about, he was chopped into pieces. He turned into broken copper cast all over the floor. An icy snow-like fairy came flying out of the light coming from the robot's head. It flapped its little wings and dodged Dragon Lady's knife and fork storm like a ghost. It quickly flew deeper into the building. Now, Han Sen knew the robot was just a disguise. The snow-like fairy's energenic was its true self. Do you want to escape? Not so fast. Dragon Lady looked cold as she shouted. Dragon Eater's 8th skill. Barbecue pork. Dragon Lady's fork went flying. It went straight for the fleeing snow fairy. The fork trapped it, making it unable to move. Dragon Lady moved the fork, and the snow fairy's body flew back through the air. In the next second, Dragon Lady's knife arose with a storm of fire. She was going to cook that snow fairy straight away. The snow fairy struggled and screamed, "Master, help me!" Seeing the fire was going to touch the snow fairy, a cold light suddenly flashed. The shadow of the fork was broken by the cold light. The snow fairy was set free. It flapped its wings and flew away. She dodged the dangerous flame that sought to cook her. Deeper into the hall of the laboratory, a woman was wearing a white lab coat, short skirt, stockings, and high heels. She had short hair and wore a pair of black-framed glasses. She had a scalpel in her hands. The cold light came from the scalpel. The snow fairy raced to the woman. It flew around her, saying, "Master, they broke into the lab and wanted to kill me. Capture them and make them a test subject." The woman's vision was snared by Dragon Lady's gaze. It looked like there were sparks between them. The woman coldly said, "I thought someone dared to trouble me here in my lab, but it was just a mixed ancient god. I suppose that is perfect for a test subject. She will come in handy." When Dragon Lady heard that, her face turned sour. She held the knife and fork and raised her eyebrows. "Before that, you will become food on my plate." The 2 women stared at each other. The knife, fork, and scalpel all shone. It was so scary. The levels of their powers continued to amp. "Stop it. We are all friends here. We should talk about this. This was all just a big misunderstanding." Han Sen broke the ice and stepped forward. He ran between the women and stopped them from fighting. The 2 women spoke the same words at the same time. "Who says I am friends with her?" After that, the woman saw Han Sen and looked at him with shock. "It's you. Why are you here?" "Han Jinji sent me to find you. He said only you can sort out my blue blood problem." Han Sen did not cut corners. "Han Jinji? Who is that?" Han Yufei looked confused. Han Sen was shocked. Han Jinji had him seek out Han Yufei, but Han Yufei did not know who Han Jinji was. That was quite a weird twist. "You don't know a Han Jinji? He is an old man, and something of a fortune teller. He has double eyelids above long and narrow eyes." Han Sen described Han Jinji's appearance. Han Yufei shook her head. "You know that I was trapped in Two Worlds Mountain. Unless he is someone from Sacred Era, how am I supposed to know who he is?" Han Sen was shocked. He thought, yes, Han Jinji is not so old. He might be old for humans, but before someone like Han Yufei, he is less than a few years old. How could he know who Han Yufei was? "Come on in first." Han Yufei turned around and went into the laboratory. Han Sen said his greetings, and Dragon Lady followed. The snow fairy shut the door behind them. That icy bunker/laboratory was full of ice. The temperature was low. Han Sen saw drawers and cans made of ice. Through the half-transparent ice, some weird stuff was visible inside them. There were organs of creatures, some colorful liquids, and some large ice cupboards with entire xenogenics in them. "Take a seat." They entered a room that looked somewhat like a lounge. Han Yufei sat on an ice chair. She looked at Han Sen and asked, "Did you say that guy Han Jinji told you to find me here? How does he know I am here? How does he even know my name? He told me to come and look for you here but said nothing else. I thought you might be close to him." Han Sen felt depressed. It seemed as if he had been tricked by Han Jinji. "I can tell you with complete certainty that I have never heard this name before. I do not know this person." Han Yufei was silent a moment and then asked, "Why did he tell you to come and look for me? My body has blue blood. I thought you would know that already." Han Sen frowned. "Blue blood? What blue blood?" Han Yufei frowned. "Did you not see what happened in the god palaces?" Han Sen asked with shock. "I have so much research to do, so I have no time to watch such things," Han Yufei said. Han Sen told her about Human King dribbling all the blue blood on him. After Han Yufei heard his tale, her face changed. She grabbed Han Sen's hand. Before Han Sen could react, she pulled a needle out of nowhere and thrust it into one of his fingers. She drew some of his blood. Before he said anything, Han Yufei ran out of the lounge. She went into a laboratory, which had all kinds of tools. Dragon Lady and Han Sen wanted to enter, but Han Yufei did not even look at them as she said, "Stand outside and do not come in." Han Sen knew that normal people should not enter a laboratory. If they fiddled with some tool and messed up a test, that would be bad. So, he just waited outside. Fortunately, the laboratory wall was made of ice. It was crystal clear, so they could see what was going on inside. Han Yufei used all kinds of tools and tubes to research the blue blood. After an hour, she came out of the laboratory. "Not bad. The blood inside your body is sacred blood." Han Yufei was checking Han Sen out. She went on to say, "So, your body already has sacred leader's genes. Otherwise, you would not be able to combine with that blue blood. As for that guy who gave you the blue blood, where did he get sacred leader's blood from? The amount of it is almost like sacred leader himself. Could that person be sacred leader?" Han Sen always wondered if Human King and Qin Xiu were the same person. "No," Han Yufei said with confidence. "Why not?" Han Sen did not know why Han Yufei was so sure about that. "Follow me. I need to give you a full body check." Han Yufei led Han Sen to another laboratory. She said, "Sacred leader's blood is different from ordinary blood. If the guy you told me about was the real sacred leader, then he could not have spoken to you face to face." Han Sen was confused, so he asked, "What does that mean?" Han Yufei kept walking and said, "You should have heard about sacred leader wearing armor at all times. No one has seen his face. Isn't that correct?" Yes. Han Sen had heard about that before. Since he had met Qin Xiu's soul and saw his statue, he had not thought it was a big deal. Han Yufei said, "Sacred leader wore armor because his body was special. If he did not wear armor, his body would have had a big problem. Let's not say he cut his hands and gave you blue blood. A sacred leader would never have exposed his hands outside of his armor. So, the guy who gave you blue blood must not have been sacred leader." While they were talking, Han Sen was led into another laboratory by Han Yufei. This laboratory was different from the last one. This laboratory had been constructed with impressive technology, and the temperature was not quite as low. Han Sen entered a chamber. Han Yufei started the tool that would enable a full scan of Han Sen's body. As Han Sen was lying in the chamber, he asked, "Was Sacred Leader's body sick? Why would he have problems if he did not wear armor? You should feel it, right?" Han Yufei asked. "When your blood turned into blue blood, you were cut off from all the rules and powers of the universe." Han Sen nodded and confirmed. He did not just feel it. It was very strong. Sacred Leader himself did not just create a barrier. Without the protection of the armor, his body would have been destroyed by the ruling powers of the universe. He would have had to fight against the whole universe. You know the ending. Han Yufei kept using her tools as she spoke. When Han Sen heard that, his heart jumped. That sounds so familiar. It sounds like in the sanctuaries. When you level up to a higher sanctuary, the higher level sanctuary's rules would destroy you. Han Yufei looked at the data on the monitor and frowned as she said, "Weird? What is weird?" Han Sen asked. "Aside from the blue blood genes inside your body, there is another gene," Han Yufei quietly said. "That gene is very close to the blue blood genes, but it cannot combine with the blue blood. It is because of that gene you did not become completely blue blood. That should be the 9-life cat tattoo. Han Sen told her about the 9-life cat tattoo. Now, Han Sen was starting to believe what Han Jinji had told him. It looked like Han Yufei would be the one to sort out his current problems. At least, Han Yufei understood blue blood. Han Yufei looked at the data on the monitor and spoke to herself. 9-life cat genes, huh? That should be impossible, unless... She suddenly thought of something. She quickly controlled the tool and rescanned Han Sen's body. Of course, this is right. After 1 hour, Han Yufei looked very excited. She stared at the data board with an enthralled glow. Han Sen was depressed, so he asked, "What is the situation now? Is there a way to take the blue blood power out of my body? Answer a few of my questions first." Han Yufei did not wait for Han Sen to agree. She immediately asked, "You come from the sanctuaries, right?" "Yes, that's right."
Han Sen nodded.
There was no real point in hiding it now. Han Yufei looked at Han Sen with interest as she asked, "You are a mix of crystallizer and sacred leader's blood, aren't you?" "I don't know." Although Han Sen agreed with the assessment, it was not something he could believe in 100%. "Yes, you are," Han Yufei told Han Sen with absolute certainty. Han Sen did not understand and asked, "How can you be so sure?" Han Yufei coldly said, "Because it was me who was in charge of Sacred Leader's research into the blood. Only I researched sacred blood, and only my assistant saw some. Without that information, no race's blood can be combined Sacred Leader's blood." "Your assistant, crystallizer?" Han Sen suddenly noticed something. Han Yufei once told him that after the crystallizers had their genes modified, they would become more intelligent. So, Han Yufei and Sacred Leader hired them as test assistants. Yes, it was a crystallizer. If you are a crystallizer and you can combine with blue blood, it is without a doubt that you are a crystallizer mix that contains Sacred Leader's blood. Because the research was not a total success, combining with Sacred Leader's blood was very weak. It did not affect the natural blood of a crystallizer. People would not be able to tell, so they would just assume you to be a crystallizer. Han Yufei paused and smiled before saying, "I cannot believe Left Crazy was that smart. He only saw that little bit of information, yet he was able to do this. It must have been very hard for them. Even if I am a mix of crystallizer and sacred, what is the connection with 9-life cat?" Han Sen asked. 9-life cat, ghost car, phoenix, and holy Kirin were the 4 holy beasts of sacred. In fact, they were important research for Sacred Leader. It is different from researching with supergene. The research on the 4 holy beasts was about making the creatures of the universe holy spirits and turning them into new creatures that could rival God's spirits. Only holy Kirin was a success. The other 3 holy beasts were not a success. That was especially true with the 9-life cat. There was some problem in the process. Oh, speaking of that, Han Yufei looked solemn. She went silent and did not continue speaking. Was there a problem? Han Sen's expression showed that he was in a rush. He had been chasing this for many years, and he was finally on the cusp of learning the truth. His desire for finding this out was something no one could understand. "I don't know." Han Yufei's answer almost made Han Sen jump. "How could you not know?" Han Sen's eyes opened wide. He stared at Han Yufei. "I really don't know. The process of making a holy spirit was dangerous. In the test, 9-life cat was injected with too much spirit. His spirit could not take it, so he broke. Therefore, he died. His body had no life force. After that, Sacred Leader took 9-life cat's body away." After saying that, Han Yufei looked at Han Sr. "I only found out from you now that 9-life cat did not die, and his blood is close to blue blood. That should be impossible." Han Sen had a strange expression. He had many thoughts swirling through his head, but he screamed, "What you are saying is that 9-life cat was revived because of Sacred Leader. Does that mean 9-life cat is?" Before Han Sen said anything else, he thought that possibility was too shocking. Han Yufei nodded and said, "From what I guess, there are 2 possibilities. One is that it is just as you say. Perhaps Sacred Leader used 9-life cat's body to conduct more tests, and 9-life cat became a vessel for him. The other possibility is that Sacred Leader used his blood. He gave it to 9-life cat and then, somehow, 9-life cat was revived as a new type of species. Only that could explain why the Nine-Life Cat's gene power is so similar to Sacred Leader's blue blood. That is why Nine-Life Cat's power can combat blue blood power. Only Sacred power can restrict Sacred. Which do you think is the likelier result? Han Sen looked weird. He thought about the demon lady before she died. She told him to be wary of Old Cat. Now, that was starting to seem very interesting. I don't know. Han Yufei turned off the machine and let Han Sen exit the chamber. Han Sen stretched his body as he asked, "Is there a way to erase the blue blood inside me?" "The genes are combined, so it is impossible to erase it now," Han Yufei excitedly said. "Why would you want to get rid of it? If it is just blue blood power, that would be very bad. But your body has 9-Life Cat's mutated blue blood genes. These mutated blue blood genes will not be destroyed by the rules of the universe. You just need to combine the two powers into one. Then, you can perfectly get a hold of it and will be a Sacred Leader that will not be destroyed by the rules of the universe. You can achieve more than what Sacred Leader did. By then, you would not need the super gene to kill God's spirits." "Why would I want to kill God's spirits?" Han Sen asked with a frown. Han Sen had tried to be a God spirit. Although God spirits were a bit dangerous, it was not like they had to be destroyed. Regarding the harm, when every race was making themselves stronger, the crimes they committed were worse than the God spirits. The harm they caused was greater than anything the God spirits did. Unless he was born an enemy of the God spirits, he really did not see the point in killing God spirits. Han Yufei looked at Han Sen weirdly. After a while, she sighed. "You still don't understand the God spirits and what they are. If you understood, you would feel the same way. You can make me understand." Han Sen looked at Han Yufei with eyes that were on fire. "It is hard to explain so suddenly." Han Yufei clearly did not want to answer that question. She changed the subject and said, "You should stay here. I will find a way for you to control the blue blood power. As for the removal of the blue blood, I do not think I can do that. After successfully combining with it, can I use the old geno-arts I have?" Han Sen asked. "Impossible," Han Yufei said. "Sacred Blood's gene power is too powerful. Even if you did not get destroyed, you could not run it with other geno-arts. You can only use this power, but that is enough." Han Sen had an odd expression as he asked, "Are you sure that after having Sacred Blood power, I cannot use other powers?" "Of course. I thought you have experienced this," Han Yufei said. "By the way, I am very interested in learning more about Han Jinji. Tell me more about him." Han Yufei squinted her eyes. "Sure. As a trade, I want to know what God spirits are," Han Sen calmly said. Han Yufei looked at Han Sen seriously for a while and said, "Sure. I can try to explain, but I cannot promise that you will understand." Han Sen looked at Han Yufei as he said, "If you are willing to explain, then I should be able to understand." Han Yufei was non-committal. She coldly said, "Aside from ancient God and God spirits, the universe's creatures have a mortal life. Do you know what determines their lifespan?" Han Sen thought about it and said, "Different creatures all have different lengths of life. That is usually determined by their genes." Han Yufei nodded. "Indeed, unless they die by accident. Otherwise, what affects their lifespan is usually down to what is in their genes. Different creatures have different genes that determine the length of their life. But that is not something absolute. In fact, many other variables can affect a lifespan. For example, there is cryosleep technology in the universe. That is very common. It can slow down the renewal of genes and extend one's life. Cryosleep technology is a stupid idea. When you are frozen, it is like you are dead. In the meantime, it is totally pointless. Compared to that, there are high-class time geno-arts that can make your body clock stop so the genes in your body never renew. Technically, you would be immortal and forever young. Just like you." Han Sen looked at Han Yufei as he spoke. Han Yufei had been trapped in Two Worlds Mountain for God knows how many billions of years, yet she had maintained a youthful image. She had not died. That must have been a result of time powers. Han Yufei did not answer Han's senator. She went on to say, "According to the theory, many creatures can be immortal. In fact, it is not like that. No matter if normal creatures or true gods xenogeneics have a powerful time power, if they live longer than their gene's lifespan, they will die by accident. Before Sacred appeared, that was very common. Powerful existences, such as true dragons or phoenixes, no matter how powerful they are or how strong their life force, will die at some point in time. Are you saying that the god spirits take the lifespan of creatures? Han Sen's head flashed. He thought about the god spirits stealing one's lifespan. Han Yufei nodded and said, yes, it is like that. When Sacred appeared, they forced open the space barrier. They forced the god palaces to appear and killed God knows how many of the god spirits that descended. The god palaces were heavily damaged. After I was set free, I saw many old antiques that remained alive. Some even hailed from Sacred's time. With their current lifespan, they cannot live much longer. The only explanation is that because of Sacred's god fights, there was a flaw in the god spirit's control. That is how they were able to use all methods to live up until now. Before Sacred, this had never happened. Does that mean killing god spirits is to obtain immortality? Han Sen frowned. Although what Han Yufei was saying made sense, Han Sen still thought there was something amiss. Immortality, to me, isn't what I am looking for, but I don't like the feeling of being restricted and calculated. How long I live is something I should determine. After all, it is my life. The god spirits are trying to take those rights away. I am not going to allow them to succeed. I want them to feel what it feels like to have their lives in the hands of others. Han Yufei used her hands to lift her black-framed glasses as she spoke. This woman, she is insane. Han Sen had to admit Han Yufei was the scariest woman he had ever met. Han Sen suddenly remembered the scroll. Han Yufei's crime was committing blasphemy against a god spirit. Her crime was worse than God's retribution. Now, it was starting to make sense. Han Sen was pretty sure that in the Sacred Era, she must have conducted tests on the god spirits. That was probably a crime that was worse than slaying a god spirit. Han Sen stared at Han Yufei as he asked, what about Sacred Leader? Did he kill gods because of that? That is what he told me, but I do not think that is the real reason. At the very least, he did not do it just for himself. He was probably doing it for someone else. After saying that, Han Yufei went silent. Wanner. Han Sen said the name and watched Han Yufei's reaction. Han Yufei looked shocked. She asked, do you know Wanner? Han Sen thought, more than just know her. Han Yufei did not wait for Han Sen's answer. She kept speaking. Yes, that was who Sacred Leader loved the most. Sacred Leader's reason for killing the gods was probably because of Wanner. Otherwise, with his power, avoiding god spirits to live would not have been difficult. Han Sen noticed Han Yufei's tone was a bit off. He quickly asked, was Wanner Sacred Leader's real sister? Although Sacred Leader kept saying Wanner was his real sister, I know for sure that Wanner was not his real sister because Wanner was not the same race as him, Han Yufei said with certainty. How do you know they are not from the same race? Han Sen asked. Of course, Wanner was one of my people. Han Yufei lifted her lips as she spoke. With the title, she should be calling me Andy. I watched her grow up. Do you think I am wrong? What? Wanner is the same race as you? What race do you belong to? Han Sen's eyes opened wide as he looked at Han Yufei. Even now, he did not know which race Han Yufei belonged to. Which? Han Yufei said with a sigh. Our race almost became extinct a long, long time ago. I don't think anyone in this universe has heard our name before. Aside from me, I do not believe any others are alive. Back then, there were Tai, Qing Jun, and Purple Fight. Now, they are Tai, Qing Jun, Purple Fight? Are they all witches? Han Sen's eyes opened wide. Han Yufei developed a wry smile. Not anymore. Qing Jun has become Sky God. He is not a witch anymore. Purple Fight is dead. The Purple Fight in Two Worlds Mountain was just his will. As for Tai, he is missing. I am afraid he might have been killed in the god fights. After hearing this, Han Sen felt extremely weird. He had not expected Wanner and Han Yufei to come from the same race, or to learn that Qing Jun and Tai were once a witch. After the god palaces appeared, Han Sen had been looking for Qing Jun's god temple. He wanted to kill him so that he could exact vengeance. He had searched the entire length of the god palaces and was unable to locate Qing Jun's flag. He did not know which god temple he resided within. Regarding Tai and the metal god temple, Han Sen was not able to find it. That made Han Sen feel strange. Han Sen told her about his encounter with Tai and how he repaired the metal god temple, broke space, and departed. He wanted to know what she might say. After Han Yufei heard that, she looked shocked. She asked, "Is Tai still alive?" "Yes, but he fixed metal god temple and broke space," Han Sen said. "I have not seen metal god temple amidst the others since the god palaces appeared. What is that all about?"
Han Yufei live-head.
"Of course, you were unable to find it. The metal god temple is the god temple Sacred tried to recreate. He wanted to replace the original god temple to become the leader of the universe so they would not be restricted by the god palaces and Geno Hall. They wanted to replace the entirety of the god palaces. Before they could succeed, Sacred was destroyed and metal god temple was ruined. I did not know Tai rebooted metal god temple." Han Sen wanted to say something, but he felt the entire laboratory start to shake. The ice walls were breaking. Even the metal was breaking. It was like there was an earthquake. Some scary presence covered the entire place. Even with Han Sen's slowed reaction, he sensed how scary it was. "Sacred's remnants, come out and die." A godly voice echoed throughout space. The ice walls of the ice bunker's laboratory exploded. The tools were breaking and falling apart. Han Yufei's eyes suddenly looked cold. She was holding a scalpel. She ran out of the ice bunker's laboratory and exited the ice bunker. She pulled a metal orb out of her pocket and threw it. That metal orb fired out some light. The lights crossed each other to become a bisema. It protected the ice bunker from further harm and filtered out the godly voice. The lab stopped breaking. Han Sen and Dragon Lady ran out of the ice bunker's laboratory. The space around them turned dark. It was like the whole cold plant was disconnected from the world. In the darkness, there was a black shadow floating in the air. It coldly looked at them. The scary god sounds came out from that shadow. Because that shadow and darkness were combined, they were not able to see what it looked like. They only saw a pair of red, gleaming eyes. They were like two blood marks in the air. Han Sen clearly felt that the two eyes were looking at him. Besides, what the guy had said earlier was not hard to decipher. This unknown being was coming after him. "What is your name, and why have you come here?" Han Sen loudly asked.
Shadow Gu.
"I am here to scrub up the last remains of Sacred." The powerful god voice returned. The red eyes in space looked even angrier. "It's the Annihilation class shadow god that has descended. It looks like the god spirits are really afraid of Sacred Leader's blood. They could not wait to destroy all who possessed blue blood." Han Sen's stern face did not change. He looked at Shadow God and coldly asked, "To clear the remnants of Sacred, shouldn't you go after the guy who gave me blue blood instead? Are you not going to kill the one who caused this? Did you really come for me, who is a victim of the blue blood? It seems like god spirits are just wimps that only dare to bully the weak. As long as you are a remnant of Sacred, you should die," Shadow God said. His eyes were glowing with a red light. They turned into two red beams that went straight for Han. Senator Han Sen readied himself for a fight, but Han Yufei's body moved first. She was in front of Han Sen holding a controller. Han Yufei's finger touched the controller twice. Suddenly, a light screen came out from the controller. The screen looked like a mirror. Shadow God's red light beam hit the screen and ricocheted back. It made Shadow God have to fire another two red lights to extinguish it. "Shadow God, I don't care about who you want to kill," Han Yufei coldly said. "If you dare to try and destroy my lab, you must pay the ultimate price." "Han Yufei, this is none of your business. If you do not want to be trapped for another billion years, you should leave now." Shadow God coldly grunted. "I want to know how you might attempt to trap me for a billion years," Han Yufei coldly said. "If you have a death wish, I will grant it for you right now." Shadow God's voice coldly boomed. He glowed with a red light. This time, it did not manifest as a laser and leave him. It was like two red suns were glowing weirdly in the dark of space. Han Sen's and Dragon Lady's expressions changed. They had already mustered all the power they could to defend the place, but they felt as if they were losing control of their bodies. They were like wooden dolls just standing where they were. It was not just that either. Han Sen's body suddenly lost all control and moved. The ancient spirit seed was still on his arm, but the arm moved. His hands moved to grab his own head. He tried to twist it like he was attempting to twist his own head off. Dragon Lady was the same. She held her own head. Her neck had already been turned 90 degrees, and it was still twisting. The neck bones started to creak and groan. It was like her head was going to be ripped off at any moment. It made Dragon Lady's mouth and nose start to bleed. Han Sen was not doing well either. He felt as if his neck was going to break soon. His jaw was almost touching his back. His face was all puffed out. He was going to explode. I am ripping my own head off. That is a new way to die. Han Sen mocked himself. He knew that he and Dragon Lady were being controlled by Shadow God's power, but he just did not know what sort of power it was. How could he lose control of his body without knowing it? Han Sen was trapped by the blue blood power, so he was unable to fight back unless he used his Super God Spirit More or Blood Pulse Sutra to activate the blue blood power. Aside from that, there was nothing he could do. Pang! While Han Sen wondered about which power he should use, he suddenly saw Han Yufei's hands control the controller to bounce back a beam of light. That beam of light went 3 feet and spread. It turned into a light umbrella. Han Yufei pressed the button on the controller that had become an umbrella. The light umbrella suddenly turned black. She placed it over their heads and blocked Shadow God's red light influence. Han Sen and Dragon Lady let out a long sigh. They had regained control of their bodies. Han Sen was still moving his neck, which was in pain, as he asked, "What is that red light power?" The red light was just his help. His real power is that. Han Yufei pointed at the floor. Han Sen looked and saw nothing on the floor. They were standing atop the ice bunker. There was snow on it. Han Sen suddenly understood. Han Yufei was talking about the shadow. When the red light shone, Han Yufei's black umbrella created a black shadow. It covered Han Sen in its shadow. "Do you think this can block my Shadow God power?" Shadow God coldly asked. His eyes were glowing with red light. It made the shadow around become clearer. Han Sen quickly discovered that the umbrella in Han Yufei's hands was shaking. It looked as if it was going to get blown away any second. Han Yufei slightly frowned. She wanted to do something, but she heard a ding-dong sound come out from the dark of space. It was like many bells were tolling. Han Sen and the others immediately saw a purple light emerge from the dark of space. 10 of those lights were like a real dragon pulling a copper carriage. It was like the sky and earth had a line of light. "This is Purple Fight's bronze carriage." Han Sen looked at it. He noticed where the car was from. He had been inside Purple Fight's once upon a time, sitting inside that bronze car. The Cloud Dragons were pulling the car to a point above the Ice Bunker Laboratory. The entire Ice Bunker Laboratory was covered by the shadows of the car and Cloud Dragons. There was a sudden "ta" noise. The bronze car's car door opened. Purple Fight walked out. He looked at Shadow God, who was in the dark. "Sacred's first general, Purple Fight. I have heard of your name," Shadow God coldly said upon seeing Purple Fight. "What a shame. All you have left is just your mind now." Purple Fight ignored Shadow God. He looked down to peer at Han Yufei. Han Yufei looked disdained. She coldly said, "My business is none of your business." Purple Fight's voice sounded soft in his response. "I am not meddling in your business. I am merely not allowing anyone to hurt you. Do you not think I am as good as him?" Han Yufei looked glum as she spoke. Purple Fight shook his head. "No. No matter how strong you are already the strongest in the universe. As long as I am here, no matter who it is, they must go through me before trying to hurt you." When Han Sen heard that, his skin flared up with goosebumps. He thought, these two actually have something going on. But Han Yufei said Purple Fight was dead and only his mind continued to exist. Is this Purple Fight I am seeing now and not his true body? Enough. Do you guys think I don't exist? Shadow God could not listen to them any longer. He was furious. His God voice was like thunder coming down. His red eyes grew bigger and dyed the dark world red. Under the bronze car's shadow, Han Sen and the other shadows were covered. He was not able to control them while they were under that shadow. Now, Han Sen shockingly discovered that Purple Fight had no shadow. He was like a phantom or ghost. While the red lights from Shadow God's eyes grew brighter, even his body, which had combined with the darkness, was appearing. Han Sen and the others now saw it clearly. Shadow God was like a black, evil dragon. His entire body was full of black, inky scales. He had a pair of black butterfly wings. His head looked like a dragon, but he only had one horn. His entire body was releasing a weird, ghost-like black fire. It was like darkness itself was coming out from his body. He saw the wings on Shadow God's back flap. The dark space around followed the wings and flapped. The darkness gathered. It turned into a scary, big, black beast that was visible from every angle. True dragon, phoenix, Kirin, fishbird, all kinds of creatures from all sorts of legends kept appearing in the dark. All of them had a scary presence. They did not look like shadows, but their bodies were as black as ink. They looked like shadows, but they looked rather real. They all looked weird. They looked as if they were real and not real. One was not able to tell. Can the xenogeneics that become a black shadow actually fight? Han Sen was deeply shocked. If they had fighting power, even if they doubled their numbers, it would be impossible to repel those scary creatures. Han Yufei's expression did not change. She sounded casual as she said, "These are Shadow God's shadows born from his shadow power. These are not really xenogeneics." Han Sen felt relieved, but Han Yufei went on to say, "But these shadows have 80% of the original xenogeneics' power." Hearing that high percentage, Han Sen was speechless. All of space was currently full of those scary xenogeneic shadows, including a phoenix. All of them were a true god-class existence. Ignoring the 80% power mentioned, even if they had just half of their original power, there were so many of them that they would likely destroy everything in their path. The shadow in the darkness, revive your soul. Punish this world. Shadow Kingdom, darkness descends. While Shadow God was roaring, countless shadow xenogeneics roared. They were all headed for the cold planet from every angle. The shadow of each xenogeneic was strong. Each of them was able to destroy a planet. Now, they were rushing like a tide of beasts that covered the sky and ground. They were coming fast. It was like a black, demonic wave. This scene was shocking. Dragon Lady and Han Sen were ready to fight. With such a scary power descending, they did not think Purple Fight could repel the enemy alone. Han Sen was even planning on using Super God Spirit Mode to escape. The scary shadows were coming down on that place like a tide. It was not some power only two people could deal with. Han Yufei just stood where she was. She was not planning to fight. She calmly looked at the xenogeneics that came from every direction and did not move. Suddenly, Han Sen felt a scary presence coming. It was like some battle from ancient times. It suddenly filled up the sky and area around them. He looked at Purple Fight, whose body had purple air rising. His whole body was releasing purple fire that he could not control. He released a scary battle mind. There was a purple light visible. The darkness turned purple. Like I said, as long as I am here, no one can hurt her. Purple Fight's voice sounded cold. His eyes burned like fire. Let me see what the mind of the number one general can accomplish. Show me what you can do. Shadow God's body blazed with a black flame. It made the shadows and the darkness develop even more xenogeneics. Purple Fight's expression did not change. Han Sen and Dragon Lady were prepared to fight. The xenogeneics arrived too quickly. It was like the end of the world. It was like the world was ending by a flood. Boom. In that second, Purple Fight's battle mind was totally activated. The purple flame gathered to become stars. It was like a universe of stars surrounding him. Very angry like a mad cow. Purple flowers make the universe kill all the stars around. Purple Fight's voice was so cold that it was like ice. The universe of stars around his body exploded. The scary battle mind swept through the universe. It was like a purple star going supernova and sending a billion lights flying. Wherever the starlight went, everything was destroyed. The xenogeneics were like a tide, but they were killed by the starlight. It was like charcoal going against the snow. The darkness in space suddenly turned bright purple. Purple Fight was like a star in the center of the universe. A sky full of stars was spinning around him. The tide of demons covering the sky and ground were swept away. Shadow God screamed and vanished in the purple starlight. Purple Fight, if my body was not limited, I would not let you do this, Shadow God said before his voice disappeared. Space started to go back to normal. Purple Fight said nothing. He just looked at Han Yufei. He returned to the copper car. 10 cloud dragons pulled the copper car away. It disappeared into space. Purple Fight is very powerful, Han Sen complimentarily said. It is no wonder he fought with Sacred Leader once upon a time. He had heard Purple Fight was the most powerful general in Sacred, but he had never been able to witness how powerful he was before. Now, he had seen it with his own eyes. Purple Fight, who only had his will left, used his own power to beat an Annihilation-class God Spirit. Go back. The God Spirits will not be coming here anytime soon. We must get you the power to control Sacred's blood. Han Yufei looked where the copper car had disappeared to. Without emotion, she returned to the lab. In the ice bunker's testing room, Han Sen looked weird. About that, Teacher Han, can that really make me control blue blood power? Han Sen stood atop an ice platform with one leg. He raised his hands to balance himself out. He looked like an old chicken standing. He had been doing this for more than 10 hours now. Han Yufei forced him to stand like that the entire time. She did not allow him to do anything else. She hadn't injected him with any geno fluids or anything of the sort either. She hadn't taught him a new geno art, which made Han Sen very suspicious. Is this not enough? In that case, I should add some more, Han Yufei replied. She placed an apple on Han Sen's head. She lifted her black-framed glasses and squinted her eyes. Control your body. Keep it from moving. Teacher Han, is this really going to work? Han Sen wondered. He thought Han Yufei was playing with him. If standing there allowed him to control the blue blood power, why would she need high-class research apparatus? Sacred Leader's many years of research appeared to be going to waste. Han Yufei coldly asked, "Do you know what still means?" Han Sen said, "I have learned many skills to train my patients. The geno arts I have practiced can enable me to control my own skills. I am confident about this." Really? Han Yufei was holding a thin and long stick. She pointed at Han Sen's chest and poked it. Han Sen's body was very still. It was like a mountain. He did not move. Han Yufei pulled the stick back and asked Han Sen, "Did you feel anything with those 2 pokes?" "Pain," Han Sen answered. "Anything else?" Han Yufei asked. "What else could I possibly feel?" Han Sen was confused. Han Yufei was holding her stick. She knocked Han Sen's chest with it. "So, you do not understand your body. You cannot even describe your feelings. Creatures of a high level have bodily functions that are complicated. They have many systems inside them. Pain is just a simple feeling, but there are more changes and layers to it. You did not use your feelings to feel it. When the stick goes down, the clothes and your skin hit each other. When it goes against your skin, and when your muscles cave in and bounce back and your cells hurt, the small veins break. Did you really feel all that?" Han Sen gulped his saliva. Although he controlled every inch of his muscles perfectly with the Dongxian aura, looking at himself and feeling himself was something he never bothered to do. "Use your heart to feel your body's small feelings," Han Yufei seriously said. "Make your body become absolutely still. If you can do that, it will be the time you can control the blue blood." Han Sen started to believe Han Yufei, so he seriously asked, "What does being absolutely still mean?" "You make your body's organs stop running," Han Yufei explained. "Everything stops. That will be you becoming absolutely still." "If my body completely shuts down, that means I am dead," Han Sen said with a frown. Although making his heart stop jumping and blood stop flowing was not difficult for Han Sen, if his body's functions completely shut down, that meant he was dead. Stopping does not mean dying. Becoming absolutely just means that your body becomes absolutely still. It does not mean your life force is still. I told you that you wouldn't understand. You need to feel it. When your heart stops and your body is as still as a mirror, that means you have succeeded. Han Yufei used her stick to smack Han Sen's, but instead, "Keep practicing. You do not have much time." Han Sen used his heart to feel that strike. When the stick hit his clothes, they pressed down on his hair. It made the hair rub against his skin. It gave him an itch. He then felt the clothes and skin rub each other. Next, he felt his skin and his vessels feel the pain. When the pain appeared, the blood inside was pressed. It made him feel swollen. It was clearly in Han Sen's brain. That complicated feeling could not be described in one simple word called pain. Han Yufei walked to her seat and sat down. She spoke to Dragon Lady and said, "You are very good at hitting people." "I am only good at making food," Dragon Lady quietly said. "Treat him like a slab of pork and go cook him." Han Yufei crossed her long, pretty legs and drank some tea as she spoke. "What if I cooked it?" Dragon Lady asked. "If his body, which has sacred blood, is so easily cooked, then I can only say he deserved it," Han Yufei said. Dragon Lady did not say anything. She walked over to Han Sen and raised her hands. Her hands held two knives. The one on the left was curved like a crescent moon, and the other was like half a moon. One of those two knives was for cutting through bone. The other was to slice meat. For a chef, every blade had a different use. "Hey, you guys cannot be serious." Han Sen looked at Dragon Lady approaching him without the smallest flicker of emotion. He felt a chill. His body was very strong, but she had ancient God King blood. She was already a true god and not weak. If the knives were to come down, a very strong body would not be able to withstand the strike. "Of course, I am serious. The body is yours, but feelings cannot be triggered on their own. You must have some other power outside to affect your body. When your body reacts, you can really understand your body. It is like a dumb kid that never went outside and never experienced gambling or drinking. He has never experienced what is good and what is bad." Han Yufei tried to slightly explain it. Han Sen felt as if what Han Yufei was trying to tell him made sense, but the description was weird. "Take his clothes off first in case he makes them dirty," Han Yufei said to Dragon Lady, who was right next to Han Sen. Dragon Lady did not speak. She waved a knife and cut open the blue robe he was wearing. The robe slid down. The knife made a few catcha sounds. Han Sen's clothes were cut. They all fell to the floor. Han Sen noticed he only had his underwear left and yelled, "That is enough." "That is enough?" Dragon Lady looked at Han Yufei. Han Yufei did not raise her head as she asked, "When you are cooking pork, do you leave the cloth on it?" "No," Dragon Lady answered. She waved her knife, and Han Sen's underwear fell off. It is no wonder why this is a body that is combined with sacred blood. "Not bad." Han Yufei squinted her eyes to admire Han Sen's body. Han Sen wanted to say something, but the bone-cutting knife in Dragon Lady's left hand stabbed into his body. It made him take a deep breath. It hurt. His eyelids were quivering. He almost screamed. "Do not move," Han Yufei said without emotion. "Use your heart to feel your body." Han Sen felt as if he was food on the chopping board. Anyone could have done something to him. Dragon Lady used all kinds of skills to torture him. She used a knife to slash and an axe to strike. She used fire to burn and water to boil. She used almost every method, even going so far as to sprinkle spices on him. Han Sen wondered if Dragon Lady had wanted to do this to him for a long time. It was as if she wanted to eat him and see what he tasted like. Although Han Sen was not able to use Geno arts, his body was still very strong. The knives in Dragon Lady's hands only inflicted small wounds. They were unable to cause big cuts. His wounds also recovered quickly. No scars remained after the wounds healed. Dragon Lady was holding back. She never struck with the desire or possibility of outright killing him. The bone-cutting knife hit him 100 times. It almost broke his belly, but there was never a strike that endangered his life. If Han Sen was a cow, Dragon Lady was a butcher. She could have scraped all the meat and left nothing behind. The intense pain was surging through Han Sen's body. Although his heart was tough, it was still very painful. He had to grit his teeth to avoid roaring out loud. "Pain is just an alarm system for your body," said Han Yufei, who was nearby. "The alarm is different and dependent on the situation at hand. There are many different alarms, such as pain, itching, soreness, and numbness. Ordinary people only feel the strongest alarm systems, such as when your back is itchy or you step on a nail. Normal people only feel pain in the foot and ignore the itch on the back. You must feel the deepest sense inside everything. If you can understand every aspect of your body, you can really control it." Han Sen had to quiet down to feel the sensations of his body being injured so that he could feel the pain. Hurting already made people feel bad, but Han Sen needed to feel the nitty-gritty details of it. There weren't words to describe how bad that made a person feel. In this kind of situation, Han Yufei required Han Sen to be absolutely still. She needed him to remain calm. That was like the devil's devil. Fortunately, Han Sen was not like an ordinary person. It took one day for Han Sen to get used to the feeling of pain. He was able to calm down and come to grips with the details and feelings of the pain. With a feeling like that, it was a little bit different. Even though pain was one feeling, it had many subtle layers. Different types of pain made the body react differently to the sensation. That represented the body having different levels of hurt. In response, the body made changes to it. Feeling pain was terrible. If one used their heart to feel it, some pain actually came along with some small and weird feelings. It made people unable to discover if it was a good feeling or a bad feeling. A normal creature's evolution mode makes the body tough and strong. They think that is power, but they will forget about the reinforcement of feeling. It makes your body more solid. The feeling powers will be delayed. This is actually the incorrect course of evolution. Not feeling pain does not mean your body isn't getting hurt. Having a sensitive body can make your body react much faster and more precisely. This reaction of the body makes you think faster. Han Yufei kept explaining. It would be like if you were sleeping and your legs were burned by fire. Your body raises the alarm of pain. It is sent to your brain, and your brain starts thinking and making you react to deal with the situation. Pain itself is a body's alarm. You do not need to think about what you have to do. You will make an ordinary reaction, and that is the fastest reaction. If you can make do by just using your body's reaction during a fight, then you will be faster than everybody because you do not have to think. Compared with others, that saves you a lot of reaction time. Han Sen thought, that means I am just a brainless man with a simple head but strong limbs. She seemed to see through Han Sen's thoughts. Han Yufei smiled and said, do not underestimate the natural reactions of your body. Brainless does not really mean you are dumb. If you can really make the body react in a fight, with the sacred blood power, you do not even have to use your brain to kill other creatures. Although Han Yufei spoke as if it made sense, Han Sen did not agree with her at all. He thought everything was better when he relied on thinking. On the other hand, if he was able to get a reaction power like Han Yufei was describing, it would not be a bad thing to possess. In fact, regarding what Han Yufei said, it wasn't necessarily a bad feeling. Yet, like many others, Han Sen ignored that question. Han Sen used his heart to feel. With Dragon Lady's help, it only took a few days for his body to react to small feelings. Even so, Han Sen did not think he was controlling the blue blood. It was still working with a mind of its own. It had not combined with his red blood. Han Sen asked his question. Han Yufei replied, to understand your own feelings is just the first step. What comes next is the true beginning. Do you remember what I told you? You must go to the absolute still level to really control the blue blood, so that your body will stop and feel the details of itself. It is down to you to understand that. No one can help you. Ever since Dragon Lady stopped hurting him, Han Sen just stood alone without moving. Han Sen quickly discovered that to be absolutely still was entirely impossible. He was able to make his heart stop pumping and his lungs stop breathing. He had even made his blood stop flowing, but his body still had many of its functions running. Like the brain and changing of cells, Han Sen thought it would be easy to quiet them down. The more he tried to suppress them, the noisier his body became. Countless numbers of cells functioned. It was like a partying nightclub. Because of that, his feelings grew deeper. His feelings were supremely sensitive. The more he felt, the more his body could not be kept still. Han Sen was no longer able to resist telling Han Yufei, it is impossible to remain absolutely still. Blue blood power has never fit into the rules of this universe, Han Yufei coldly said. If you cannot achieve absolute control of your body, how are you supposed to control a power that exists outside the rules? Han Sen did not say anything because what Han Yufei said sort of made sense. Only rare people did rare things. If he did not have the power to be better than everyone else, there was no way he could control the powers that weren't bound by the rules. Han Sen tried to calm down and make his body much quieter. He hoped he could reach the absolutely still mode that Han Yufei described. The more Han Sen wanted his body to be still, the stronger the reaction his body developed. Standing there and not moving seemed to be more tiring than a fight to the death. Dragon Lady looked at the near-petrified Han Sen, who was standing still nearby. She asked Han Yufei, does this really work? He must do it, Han Yufei seriously said. It is the only way to survive. God spirits will not let anyone who possesses blue blood go. When the God spirits descend again, it won't be another goon like Shadow God. In the dark zone of the Big Barren systems, a little beast was in front of the ruins of a holy palace. The beast looked like a cat, but didn't look like a cat. It looked like a fox, but did not look like a fox. There was also a handsome young boy. How could this happen? Enti Mai. Old vulture. Where are you guys? The young man was shouting. He kept searching in the hopes of finding something. The results disappointed him. Aside from a few bloodstains, nothing else remained. Is it Auntie May's blood? The young man saw the bloodstains on the wall and was shocked. His face turned a little bit pale. Old Cat jumped atop the broken wall. He sniffed it and seriously said, "That is probably her blood. What happened here?" Little Flower gnashed his teeth. He used his hands to touch the blood stain. The moment his hand touched the blood, some weird power went into the blood stain. The blood stain had a weird shadow. It was like time was rewinding. It played back the image of what happened before. It revealed to him a scene that was like a movie. In the video, there was a scene that showed Qin murdering Auntie May. Little Flower gnashed his teeth. His lips almost started to bleed with the nibbling. It was a shame the scene showed only Qin murdering Auntie May. It did not show anything else. Little Flower moved toward another blood stain. He put his time and space powers into the blood stain. He quickly saw Qin murdering Old Vulture, the eyeless beast, and Red Ghost. "I am going to kill him. Old Cat, tell me where he is." Little Flower's eyes had turned red. They looked like they were almost bleeding. "Little Flower, calm down," Old Cat said. "You cannot fight him yet." Little Flower was so angry that it was visible in his eyes. He stared at Old Cat and asked, "Didn't you say I only needed to max out my super gene, and then I could get out of the sanctuaries and quickly level up? Tell me what to do." Old Cat looked glum as he said, "You have just become deified, and that Qin is way above true God class. If you want to level up that much in a short amount of time, it will be extremely difficult. There is a way, but it is very grueling and painful." "Tell me what to do," Little Flower confidently said. "No matter what, I am going to exact my revenge." "Fine. I hope that stuff is still here then." Old Cat hesitated a little, but he walked over to the sacred hall's ruin. He went over to the statue of Qin Xiu that was broken. Old Cat circled the broken base and walked around it twice. He put out his claws and pressed a button at the bottom. The bottom made a catcha and started moving. It revealed an entrance that led underground. Stone stairs quickly revealed themselves. "Follow me," Old Cat called out to Little Flower as he started descending the stone stairs. Little Flower followed. The stairs did not go on for long. After about 90 feet, they reached the end. An old stone door was at the very end of the stairs. Many weird symbols were carved on the door. The symbols were abstract. It was difficult to tell what they were depicting. "You should try to see if you can push open the door," Old Cat said. "If what is in there was not taken, I think it can help you a lot." Little Flower reached out his hand and pushed the stone door. With his power, the stone door did not budge. "You need to use your sacred body power to push the door open," Old Cat said. "The stone door can only be pushed with sacred power." Little Flower nodded. His body blazed with a white flame. The space around them was distorted by the presence of the fire. He placed his hand on top of the stone door. The white fire around his body was like water melting into the stone door symbol. The symbol was dyed white. It released a holy light. Kachacha. When the symbols on the stone door lit up, the stone door slowly opened. Little Flower opened it a little. Light seeped through the gap of the ajar door. That light steadily grew stronger. When the stone door was completely opened, Little Flower looked at what was beyond it. He was shocked. Beyond the stone door was an old stone hall. The deepest point of the hall had a black, mysterious set of armor. It was like a statue quietly standing there. Little Flower looked at the black armor and asked, "Old Cat, is this what you're talking about? Is it this set of armor?" "Yes. That armor is the armor sacred leader Qin Xiu wore. It is the strongest treasure in the universe. It has incredible power. You only need to earn its approval. Once you wear it, you have the power to go against the world. Not just Qin, but you could even lay waste to Tinchin lands. But, Old Cat paused and didn't continue his sentence. But what? Little Flower asked. This armor is something only sacred leader Qin Xiu can wear, Old Cat said. Aside from him, even the highest level of God's spirit could not wear this armor. You have the sacred body, but I do not know if you have its approval. If it does not work, you will be in great danger. I advise you to wait a bit longer. Once you become true God and use your holy body to wear the armor, your chances of success will be much higher. Little Flower looked at the armor and asked, Is there a chance of me succeeding? There is a 50% chance, Old Cat replied. Little Flower walked to the armor and said, That is a high enough percentage to take the risk. I cannot wait much longer. Tell me, how can I wear it? Use your holy body to conquer it, Old Cat said while squinting his eyes. If you get its approval, it will let you wear it. Okay. Little Flower walked in front of the armor. The bright white light was on fire. He stared at the armor and pressed it. Arn. Boom. When Little Flower's hand touched it, his white light fire started going to the armor. The black armor suddenly turned very bright. It was just like Little Flower's body. It was burning with a white flame. His eyes were shining with a weird light. Little Flower frowned. He felt his body was madly going for the armor. It was like it was being pulled into a bottomless abyss that could never be filled. Pang! The armor suddenly split. It shattered into a bunch of lights. It was headed for Little Flower. It suddenly wrapped around Little Flower's body and created a new set of armor. The new armor was snow white. The white light kept glowing non-stop. Only the eyes were pitch black like ink. It was like a black demon flame was inside it. Arg! Little Flower was wrapped up by the armor. He raised his head and roared to the sky. His short hair grew fast. It grew from his helmet like a black waterfall. Between the gaps of the armor, black demon flames sputtered out. The black and white colors created a startling contrast.